The following is a presentation of the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.
From the birthplace of modern winemaking, Sonoma, California, welcome to The Winemakers. Local experts Sam Couture, Bart Hansen, and Brian Casey, along with host John Myers, invite you to listen in as they discuss all facets of winemaking. So sit back, pour yourself a glass, and let's hear what the guys have to say this week.
An early morning pour on sort of a gray day in Sonoma, but I gotta say it started out beautiful. And hey, we've got Tim Zahner.
We'll get there today, John.
First of all, welcome to the Winemakers. I am indeed John Myers, pretty much the
You
consumer.
still got your music going?
I do hear
It's
music.
off.
You
Did I not turn it off?
think
no,
it's on
you
your
still got it
phone.
going. That's right.
Okay, well,
I
you
don't
know
mind
what?
a little buddy guy or
We're gonna be.
Actually,
He's gonna get a cease and
John
desist
Mayle.
letter.
John Mayle.
John
Okay,
Mayle with Mick
The
Taylor.
lawyers are gonna send him a little letter.
we've used a little musical intros before,
yeah.
but sometimes
Well,
Ed
the
will
The
snip 'em a
Godfather,
little bit.
when we had Joel Peterson on,
Oh, that's right.
All right.
and a bunch of other stuff. So
Yeah.
and with Brian Casey today, sommelier to the world.
Right.
Sam is
Belong
going to
to
drop
everyone.
in. He's in Kenwood as we speak, and Bart is just receiving grapes, so he's not going to be here.
Okay.
But we have the fabulous Tim Zahner,
Yeah.
executive director from the Sonoma Valley Visitors Bureau.
Good job. You're hired. You're in, John. Good job.
SVVB.
The old SVVB.
Yeah.
The SVIB. Welcome to the SVIB.
Hey, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you.
How
Thanks
you
for
doing
having me
today?
here. I'm doing great. Thank you for. I was just wandering around the back of this tasting room and I saw you guys were set up, and I'm like, maybe there's a microphone here.
Yeah.
And because Bart's not here, I'm like, oh, look at that, and Sam's not here. I might as well start talking.
He did want me to say hi.
Oh, good. He was great on it. Yeah, I had him on a.
And
on
Joan
the
says
podcast.
hi, too.
Good. Well, hi to everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How
and
about that?
if Sam's in Kenwood, he's probably either at Rossi Ranch or Steel Plow Vineyard.
that's-
He's been bringing grapes into the tasting room
Yeah.
over the last week, not picking grapes, just picking grapes
Sampling.
for
Or
sampling.
sampling.
Yeah.
He's letting
And
them
they-
hang still.
They taste delicious, but I don't know when to pick grapes. That's not my side of the business.
I think when the
so-
tractor shows up, right?
Well,
Is that the rule?
we gotta. It's Phil's mouth. When Phil says to go, you go. That's about it.
I'm so glad I didn't name the winery Phil's Mouth, but that's
Well, Phil
still
sent
you.
me members, and then
Yeah, that's
Phil's
right.
mouth members. I don't know.
I love the new background for the show.
So this
This is
was done by Ben Jamin, who does the tie-dye at the Grateful Dead concerts. If you're a Deadhead, you probably know Ben Jamin. And this was left over from the Catherine Russell and Tony Saunders
Oh, yeah,
concert
that
that we
was
did
fun.
last month at the Denmark Barn. And Ben was nice enough to send this to us. We used it as a backdrop out at the barn. And then we just had our Vinyl Sunday pickup party with David Gans did his Sirius
Jammin'.
XM
Yeah.
Grateful Dead Radio Hour here from the office, and then his band Critical Envelopes played, and so we use that as the backdrop. And so I hope it stays here. It's gorgeous.
So, did anybody ask him how he got the name of the band Critical Envelopes?
You know, I
I don't
kind of was curious, and then I say envelope, but I heard him say to someone critical envelope.
potato.
I don't know.
Tomato.
Apricot. I don't know. I
Oh
don't
no,
know
there's a
how-
right way to do that one. It depends on how you say almond or almond, depending on where
Oh,
you
it's
live.
definitely an almond.
Yeah. Depends if you grow them, it's an almond. If you eat them, it's an almond.
That's exactly right. So no, I don't know, but it is one of the weirdest names for a band that I've ever heard.
Critical envelope?
It just doesn't seem to go together. But they were amazing. The band was incredible, and the rain stopped right at 3:00 when the band started. So
Perfect.
we had a good day.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're always fun.
Yeah.
Vinyl Sundays, I
Yeah.
remember when they started out and we used to play albums.
It was
No,
so long
yeah,
ago, you just called it Sunday?
No, it was just Vinyl Sunday. Man. Did Sam just roll in?
No.
Oh.
But it was actual vinyl that they would play, and that's
Yeah, yeah.
some people still think that they think Vinyl Sunday that we're going to be playing records, and that happens periodically. You know, you had the guy from Right On Records over in Napa that brought a bunch of vinyl one day, and he did one. But if we can get live music, we get live music.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say my kid is junior in high school, and she calls all records vinyls. Doesn't call them records.
Yeah, it
Or
is.
albums.
Yeah.
I know. She says, you know those vinyls, Dad? I'm thinking, are we talking about flooring right now? She goes, no, the kind that you used to listen to music on.
That's right.
You
So she said
used
that.
to? Don't you have a turntable
I
anymore?
do, but I'm just sort of laughing because everything's a vinyl.
Yeah.
And, we didn't call them that when you were buying them. Or when Columbia House was sending you 99 for a penny.
Right.
For 18 years.
I forgot about that.
You can't escape, man. They'll get you.
Wow,
They
I
still-
remember that. You used to see those
Yeah.
in TV Guide or
yeah.
Reader's Digest
Yeah.
or wherever, where you'd get 99
Well,
records for
like-
a penny. But then you were
Then they
on
got
the
you.
hook
Yeah.
for
They got you.
6
They've
years.
heard your voice. They're going to find you.
Oh man.
And they used to advertise big spreads in Rolling Stone,
Mm-hmm.
and you could sign up for soft rock.
Yeah, was it
I
Columbia?
Hard
definitely
rock.
joined more than once.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
to get the free stuff.
Columbia.
Columbia. Someone
Yeah.
told me they were lower quality recordings. That was their whole trick. I don't know. I'm not an audiophile.
Yeah.
But,
I just think they wanted to sell more vinyl. That's
Exactly.
it, baby. And back then it was so popular. I can remember buying, one of my first San Francisco bands, Jefferson Airplane,
Yep.
and trying to decide to spend $2.99 for mono or $3.99 for stereo. So
you got stereo, of course, right?
of course I did.
It's worth the extra
Yeah,
dollar.
it was, but stereo was just coming out. That you had AM radio.
Yeah.
It had FM wasn't invented then.
Right.
FM came with
Still in the lab.
like KSAN and underground radio at that
Right.
point in time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's when I switched from KCRG in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, AM station up to Des Moines, KFMG.
Wait, so you were on KC?
KCRG in Cedar Rapids,
What's the
Iowa.
read? Give it to me. What's the promo?
AM 1600, all over the town, baby. It was
Oh
so
man,
fun.
okay. We grew
All
up here
over
with
the town.
KFRC with Dr. Donald D. Rose. And he would tell you the weather in San Pani Jose.
But at least you were in California. I was in Iowa, man.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, then I think we switched to KSOL and KMEL and KITS.
KMEL,
But
that's right.
Did you listen to KSAN with Tom Donahue and Dusty Street and all those folks?
yeah, I saw
and
that.
Dusty just died.
It just
passed
passed
away.
yesterday or the day before or
Yeah.
something? Or I didn't listen much to KSAN. I grew up in San Jose, in
Oh,
San
yeah.
Pani Jose.
Yeah.
But over the hill, we had KFAT coming in from Santa Cruz, SoCal area. And they had a couple other good stations out there.
Yeah.
That's also a funny thing I explained to my kid is that radio was how we listened to everything.
yeah.
And we were listening to the local station here, the KSVY, and we were driving out of the valley and it disappeared. And my kid goes, Dad, the Wi-Fi is not working. I'm like, there's not Wi-Fi. What is going on, child? It's radio waves. And this is how we used to listen to stuff
Right.
because we wanted to be the 40th caller.
Yeah.
There was a time.
Get those tickets.
Get those tickets.
That's right. And then when you drove under an overpass,
Like,
cut
oh,
out.
no, I lost the song. And you had to keep singing.
That's right. It's amazing these kids have access to music from around the world. And it's
Right.
such an amazing thing that my daughter listens to Taylor Swift, but then also I'll hear her singing, and she's singing a Billy Joel song from
Yeah.
like the 80s. And they don't care
No.
when it's from, where it came from. If it's good music, it's
It's
good
all on the
music.
same Spotify channel. It just comes
Exactly,
in. Right? So
exactly right.
You
It's
can-
amazing.
You can get absolutely anything you want all the time now. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, YouTube has some of the coolest stuff
there's some
ever.
good music on
Yeah,
YouTube,
it does.
actually.
Yeah.
You have a good
I
point
mean,
there.
you want to hear whoever from 1967 live at the Fillmore, they've
You can
got
find
it.
it, yeah.
It's amazing. Somebody's been doing a hell of a job curating that stuff. So
Back in the day, you guys had to trade tapes, right? From the dead.
I can
someone recorded it off the.
I can
soundboard.
remember editing tape with a razor blade at the radio stations.
Oh, man.
Putting things
You
together.
just drop that. You're like, where'd that song go? I dropped the intro.
But that's how the Beatles got into tape loops
Okay.
and doing all that weird stuff.
when they were
and-
editing them and retaping
yeah,
them and
taping them
reversing them
together
and stuff.
everything. You could do anything with tape at that point.
Now your kid on their iPhone can do it.
Well, now I think that's going to come
GarageBand
back.
or
I can totally see now. They have a tasting room over in Napa where they play cassette tapes. I can see cassette tapes coming back for a little
Really?
bit. 8-track will make a resurgence. You still go to flea markets, you can find
They're there.
8-tracks, and then there's people that will
8-tracks.
repair them for you.
How about
And,
4 tracks?
Well, I grew up with reel-to-reel. My dad had
Yeah.
a reel-to-reel that he got in
Tiac?
Italy when it was a Sankyo.
Okay.
Sankyo,
Yeah.
which I don't know if that's a knockoff Sanyo.
No.
Was that
It's
actually
just
a brand?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had a TIAC.
Yeah. Yeah.
A reel to reel.
Yeah.
And so you would have the reel-to-reel for music. We're not talking movies here.
No, reel-to-reel for music. And then my dad, I still have nightmares about him playing ABBA and giving my sister and I microphones. We would sing along to the ABBA album. He would record it.
Dancing Queen.
Yeah, and then he would send it to my grandparents so they could hear us singing.
Oh, that's phenomenal.
Yeah. I'm sure those tapes are
still in existence somewhere.
I hope no one ever finds them.
So, Tim, how's tourism going?
Yeah.
Well, not as good as this conversation.
Welcome to Sonoma.
Where are you? You're from San Jose.
I grew up there.
Nice.
Yeah, in the South Bay. And then, actually, matter of fact, I was talking to a guy who works for Talisman Wines, and he went to the high school right around the corner from my house. So it was kind of a funny moment. We're like, oh, we're both from the 408.
Talisman in Glen Ellen, right?
Yeah.
They've been there a long,
Marta
long
and her
time.
husband,
Yeah,
they make
and
amazing
Rob
Pinot
Lawrence
Noir
is-
and
they-
Valdiguier.
They're doing like a vertical. We're talking about what's a vertical tasting, and then we were also talking about they have a new Russian River wine tasting dinner they're doing. Where they're tasting a bunch of
I
different
think they're
wines.
doing something at Sweet D, Girl in the
that's
Figs
the one,
event
exactly
space.
it. You're
Yeah,
exactly
I saw
it.
that. I saw that on Instagram.
So you asked me what's going on. You know, there's a lot of neat events happening in Sonoma Valley because we are, as we record this, in the middle of harvest, as we kind of talked at the beginning.
So, a little slow start.
And we'll be doing this until March.
Yeah,
And so,
exactly.
what I hear is it's about 40% in for Enterprise Vineyards, 16600.
Oh, really? Okay.
2 weeks ago, it was under 20.
They had last week. They had only picked Viognier from Steel Plow and the Zinfandel from the estate, and
Really?
so waiting on everything else.
Really?
But I'm sure that's what's been going on the last few days. And then we've had periodic rain.
Yeah, how much
spits.
fun has the weather been for picking grapes?
Well,
not
you
good.
know, if you want an easy job, you wouldn't have picked farming, right? That's
for
the
sure.
way to do it. I do know, based upon my informal data, I like this percentage. I look at the number of macro bins that I see on the road.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of them. And then when it's hot or before a rain, you see a lot of them on the roads. And so I'm seeing a lot more of the bins out there.
Everybody's trying to jam it in while they can.
But do they have
if
space?
it's not ripe, it's not ripe. And that's where Phil comes in.
Yeah.
You got to wait, right? You got to wait till Phil's mouth says
They,
go.
they want that hang time, man.
You guys
But it's
with your mass spectrometer. Phil's mouth, guys.
No, I've never seen him use one of those things.
Phil's
Yeah.
But when Sonoma Magazine had this great article, it's still out this month. Phil Cattori, Godfather of Organic Farming in Sonoma Valley, and when you have that kind of background, you don't really need the spectrometer. You go by feel, and he's been doing it since late 70s.
70s. So
Yeah.
he knows what he wants.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you mentioned Joel Peterson earlier. He said he would, when he'd take his kid out there, when the kid
Morgan
stopped,
Twain?
Morgan, he's
Yeah.
got his own winery. When he would stop spitting out the grapes, he knew he was getting close. Right? You just the kid's like,
Come here, kid, eat this.
exactly. That was a little green.
All right, make the call.
I just saw an article by Arini Global, our friends Nicole and Javier Rollet
Yeah.
from
Chamblou.
Chamblou in France. And so they included him in an article about historic vines because that is his big passion, is restoring vineyards.
Morgan, yeah.
Yeah.
Morgan
Yeah,
and
Sonoma Vines.
and bringing them back.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing.
You can go around and see a lot of those old, gnarled vines that they're probably not producing as much, and you could definitely speak more on that. But I guess it's just the history of it and the quality of the grape you can get. But you drive around the entire county of North Bay, you'll find some beautiful old vineyards.
Right,
Hiding.
just north of Dunbar at Highway 12, the
Oh, yeah.
Pagani Ranch.
Yeah.
Those have some of the most photographed vines in the country.
I think
seriously.
those just got picked. I think I saw Morgan
Yeah?
was picking
Really?
some Pagani.
Does he do that
Is he
now?
spitting them out?
I don't remember. He's evolved a little bit since he made his first wine at age 4.
His dad's not carrying him around on his back anymore.
No. No. I think Morgan's out on his own now.
This is one thing you've got to really be in awe of about Sonoma. It's such a neighborhood community.
Oh, yeah.
It's so, if somebody needs a pump, somebody needs a vessel, somebody needs a truck, they're going to find it with a neighbor and a friend because you help out. Whether they're a competitive brand, quote unquote, everybody helps out. It's amazing.
I think there's a collaborative community aspect that you see. It has to do with being agricultural and generations deep. And you're absolutely right. Whether it's harvest or other times, even in times of crisis or times of good, people rely on their neighbors.
And it really comes together with neighbors.
They absolutely do, and you're absolutely right. Like, I often see people like, "Hey, I need this. You're right, I need a pump, or this part broke, or something like that." People make it work, right?
Yeah.
So that's important.
We're all trying to accomplish the same goal. We're trying to make good wine. We're trying to sell wine. We want people to come visit us.
Right.
And that's where you come in.
That's my job. I mean, and again, no offense to anybody from Dubuque, but I tell people on my staff, somebody woke up today in Dubuque, Iowa, and they have your job. And it's a lot harder to get people to go run through a soybean field or a cornfield than it is to get them to come into a vineyard, right? You can do it.
Well,
you can do it.
Being from Iowa.
It's a lovely place. I love it. Go Hawkeyes or whatever they are.
Dubuque is not exactly the place you want to visit.
So what I'm
corn, soybeans, we're not sure, John. What are you growing in Iowa?
My point being this. Working in tourism in wine country in Northern California in the Sonoma Valley is wonderful because it's not a super hard sell. We walk through the tasting room to come through here. There's 2 different groups in there having a great time.
Yeah. And it's 10:30 in the morning.
And it is 10:30 in the morning.
They're drinking wine.
And I was a little late coming here because people were asking about maps and things to see or do.
Well, that's a good thing.
We run that visitor center, and every day we have people coming up, and they're from around the world.
Yeah, how many people do you get in there, and how many people?
We get about 100 a day.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's why we have the card out front. I mean, COVID was a problem for a lot of people, but for us, it forced us to get creative, and we put a cart out front of the Carnegie Library, which is a historic, beautiful red brick building in the middle of the plaza. The plaza is an 8-acre jewel in the middle of Sonoma.
The Carnegie Library.
Yeah.
Tell me about this.
Well, a long time ago, John, rich people would donate money for good things.
Understood. We had one in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. We had
Not
a
buy
Carnegie
chunks of
Library.
Kauai.
Yeah, exactly.
But
probably did that too. We didn't know about it.
Is that what our city hall is?
No,
Is
not
that
our
where it
city
came?
hall. So our library, which is the red brick building, is the Carnegie Library.
All right.
And you're right. He donated a lot of money. Here in Sonoma County, I believe there's one in Healdsburg and Petaluma as well. These libraries, there's probably some more that were small libraries. Oftentimes, a community did not have a public library, and I think it's a huge strength of small towns is the library, the access to it. Our city hall, if you notice, John, people often ask, "Well, where's the front of City Hall?" Right. And they're like, "I don't know. It's the same on all 4 sides."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Ah ha ha!" Because in true Sonoma fashion, we argued vociferously about the design of a public building, and so that no merchant could look at the back of City Hall.
Right.
It's the exact same on all 4 sides.
Okay.
But the front door for the public does face south on Broadway, where the big historic palm tree sits. But yes, the Carnegie Library is just to the east of it, red brick building. It's beautiful. There are some steps to go up it. So we put the card out front, and now we get so many people, especially when a bus pulls up. A lot of day trippers are coming here for an hour
it's like saying
or two.
welcome. Come.
It is, and people love it. And working in a visitor center, even in the time of the internet, is kind of funny because there will usually be 2 people, and I'm not going to say a husband and wife or boyfriend and girlfriend, but the man will be looking at the phone, and I'll say, "Can I help you?" Like, no, I got it. And the woman will be like, "Oh," I'm like, and it's not always, but this is kind of the generalization here. And they'll take 5 steps. I'm like, "Well, the ice cream shop's over there." It's like, "Where's the ice cream shop?" And I'm like, "It's right over there." Yeah. And then I'll draw them in sweet scoops. And they all insist they know what they're doing until it's evident they have no idea what they're doing.
Sweet scoops is one of my favorite weight gaining tools.
Oh no, I call it. It's for me.
I love it.
It's protein enhancement, right? Or if I need some calcium.
Oh, there you go.
That's why I go. Why is there ice cream? I thought it was just frozen congealed calcium.
It is. It
yeah.
is. Excellent.
So delicious.
But Tim, you said something interesting, and I work here in the tasting house, and I was just saying to John that I'm always, I guess, surprised that we try and ask everyone when they come in how they found us, not because we're vetting them to see if they have money or anything. It's because we're curious about how they would stumble upon 16600. We're off the square.
Right.
You're in a house. Yeah, you have to be looking for us.
Right.
And some of it is because we farm for 40 different wineries. So if they go up to Repris, they hear the name Phil Couturi. But a lot of it is we found you on Google. Yeah. Or we found you on Yelp.
Yeah.
And I guess I just find that surprising, maybe because I was saying to John that if I'm going to a specific region, I sort of know where I want to go if it's wine related. But I guess a lot of people they have no idea, and they don't know if they want to go if they're going to a place with a big castle, or if they're going to a smaller place. it's baffling to me. And luckily we have good reviews, and so people come in and they say, "Oh, we saw that you had really good reviews," but to pick a winery off of good reviews in the tasting, it just seems weird to me.
Well, can I jump in on that? Is that everyone looks for information differently.
Yeah.
We get a lot of people who come up to visitor centers and ask, and a lot of people who plan everything out. A lot of people who show up and have no idea. But we are definitely active online, getting our word out there, whether it's through social media or through blogs or even reviews, because a lot of people do use it. People are listening to this right now probably on what we would call a phone, because we're that old. We're like, it's your phone, but how often do you call on it?
No.
So if you're listening to a podcast on it, they're going to click over and look up your Yelp reviews, which are very high, and TripAdvisor or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just kind of the fact of how people travel.
What's a typical review about Sonoma?
Oh, actually, people really like. That's a great question. If you're talking about Sonoma Valley, people are very positive about it. I don't want to say. Oftentimes, they compare us to our neighbors who are just east of Eden over there in the other valley, Napa, which is a lovely place.
Yep.
And they often say we're the friendly version. And I'm like, well, I have friends in Napa, and they're not jerks, right? But there's just like that perception, I think, but also that we are. I mean, look, we're behind an older house. How old is this house? Like
1898, I think it was built.
Okay, so this is a fancy tasting room for Sonoma.
Tasting house.
A house. It is literally a house. It's probably, it was a 2 or 3 bedroom house.
And it was moved here.
It was moved here.
Yeah. So
It used to be like 6 blocks over, and they were going to tear it down and put up a new structure. And Mr. Freiberg, who owns this little complex that we're in, got some friends in a flatbed truck. And
this is a very Sonoma story. He's like,
Right.
don't tell the planning commission.
Well,
No,
and-
just everyone be quiet. Just show up.
that's right.
10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm thinking, because if you normally when you see that kind of stuff on those like HGTV channels when they
Right.
move a house, I mean, you're talking about getting the city involved. There's
Right,
overpasses
flags
and
and-
electric poles,
Right, no.
but in between here and there, we don't even have a stoplight in Sonoma, right?
We got one over here on 5th Street, right?
Oh, that's right. Okay,
no, we
so
have third, second,
but off the square,
fifth.
No, there's no stop.
off the square. So I'm imagining they probably hit no stoplights,
Yeah.
no electric
Well,
lines.
and when did they move it here?
1978,
So-
75.
So
something like that.
that's
Yeah.
old Sonoma too.
That was
you
back
know?
in the day.
Yeah.
Well, so my point being, like, a lot of reviews about how friendly we are, how approachable we are. Our wine is incredibly high quality, right?
Yeah.
But that comes from the fact that we're farmers first, right? We grow grapes here. We farm FFA, all that sort of stuff is in our DNA here.
Yep.
So I think that comes through in the reviews when they're like, I didn't talk to like some corporate overlord PowerPoint, Google Slides, Excel spreadsheet person.
Yeah.
I talked to this nice wine educator, and I talked to this nice guy who's out there in the vines and stuff like
It's a
that.
big
So
difference.
it is. And I don't want to impugn the good name of Napa. You should go visit Napa. It's a lovely place.
It is, and we've had many great interviews with people. From tasting houses to Andy Beckstoffer, who owns most or a huge percentage of the plantable land in Napa,
there.
and
Just one
now
of the most sought after vineyards. But,
Yeah.
But that's our reviews are.
Tokalan.
God herself touched Tokalan, and that whole mythical story about Tokalan. It's just
Tell it. I mean,
well, because Mondavi supposedly, and again, I'm not a wine person, but I am a marketing person, so there is some.
good.
So
I like it.
Mondavi understood that to sell California wine and Napa Valley wine, he had to create or sell this place of Napa, right? Because people weren't used to thinking of New World wines as being quality.
Yeah.
We were kind of like, we had the history of a lot of immigrants coming here and having bulk wine. We had the Italians and the Spaniards and name an ethnic group that had wine.
A nice Chianti.
Yeah, it's good stuff. So he thought, I want to sell premium wines. I have to sell the story of Tokalan, which is this beautiful vineyard in Napa that on the 7th day God touched and created the most beautiful Cabernet on the planet. It tastes like an angel's pee. It's amazing. It's the most amazing stuff ever. So that's the story that you had to create. And I'm not saying Tokalan's better or worse than
No, but
Sonoma Valley vineyard.
There are a lot of stories about that. It means, well, what did Andy tell us about
Well,
at the Last Supper?
It
First
got-
they had the regular wine, and then they said, now we'll have the goods of the Tokalan, meaning the very best. So it's like,
and even Andy couldn't even tell us why the Cabernet that came off that vineyard was so good. He couldn't he couldn't nail it down to the soil type or the exposure or the.
Clearly,
the
you didn't
grade.
read this press release, sir. Let me
it
show
was
you again. It clearly states in the lead, this is very good.
Yeah, it's just the magic of Tokelon. It's the magic of Tokelon.
Which is weird because you cross the street. No more magic. It's over.
No.
Magic ends at that the surveying stake.
That's right.
It's right there.
And it's shared by how many different vintners?
Yeah.
I mean, Andy owns half of something, and then
if you have enough money and you want to pay $25,000 a ton for cab,
you
put
really?
Tokelon on the label.
I saw on Facebook someone said there's a bunch of cab, just come pick it in their backyard. So I mean, 25,000, just come pick it. So.
We saw somebody. I think it might have been the Silicon Valley Bank people. When they did their wine report, was talking about when it all started back then, or it might have been Andy. Grapes were a commodity set by the government, prices. So just like oranges, and they would say cab is $700 a ton. I think that was the reference figure, 4 to 7, something like that. And now, obviously, the farmers are getting what they deserve for a high quality product. But the marketing of that was pure genius.
Wasn't that
nicely done?
I mean, you could talk to this more, but the idea to market single varietal or blends, but really it's Chardonnay, 75%. That wasn't a California innovation. I heard.
No, but it's weird that it started so late here. That I mean, we went over and met Jim Pedroncelli over in Dry Creek a while ago. And
Bonded Winery 113, right?
I was shocked
97
that,
years.
People don't realize that you used to buy your wine in barrels, and then that would make its way to the store, and then people would bring jugs in.
Right.
And then even the 750 ml bottles, that was a new thing.
Mm-hmm.
Putting a vineyard designate was a new thing in the 50s and 60s. Putting a varietal on it was a new thing in the 50s. I mean, that blows me away.
Was that a way though to kind of stand out from like the French, the Premier Cru, the Grand Cru, and all that sort of stuff?
It was a way, and then people didn't even put vintages for a long time because you weren't aging the wine. It wasn't like you had a stellar vintage in California.
Drank it.
You were bringing it home and drinking it with dinner.
We mentioned growing up in San Jose, next to the famed Almaden winery.
Yeah. We will drink no wine before it's time.
I think that was the gallows. I think Almaden was like, the bigger the jug, the better. I don't know. But my neighbors, second generation Japanese American farmers, we just make wine in our garage, and they would just do that, and that was the big thing. But you're right. In the 60s, we kind of, and then especially the 70s and 80s is when it started going. We became bigger and bigger about the varietals and behind it.
Yeah.
But,
and that's when it all took off.
And that's the story of wine.
That's right.
So
solved the problem.
You're on dad duty today.
The wife is on a business trip in New York, and so I've got to go pick up daughter at school, take her to the dentist, and then take her back to school for about an hour, then go pick her up at school, take her to swim.
What grade is she in?
She's a sophomore at Credo.
Okay,
over in Rohnert
Park. That's right, the Ropa.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a lot of driving for you. I think, of the dentist.
That's all I do. I can't wait till she gets her license. At first I was terrified. Now I can't wait.
It's like
Honey, here's a new car. Drive yourself.
Yeah, I'm just gonna get her like a '64 Impala, so she won't get hurt if she hits anything.
It's a big as a whale.
That's what we did with my sister. My sister would find a way to hit light poles.
Yeah, we kept losing side mirrors. My sister's like, I don't know how that happened. I'm like, because you're a bad driver?
Yeah.
How did you not notice you lost a mirror?
I can see that happening on the Amalfi Coast, but no, not here in Sonoma. Yeah.
That's a tough one. You got a tough job today. Hey, take care of the kids. So.
That's right. Well, and you guys, Tim, nice to meet you. Yeah, unfortunately, you got to get out of here, but
Tim is in competent hands. So
I have no doubt.
He said Tim is incompetent, and then he said hands. Did you hear that?
I
heard that, John. I know what you're doing there. I don't fall for your ploy.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Much appreciated.
All right, guys, and just before I leave, let me just say, Tim, good job with everything that you're doing.
Well, thank you.
I've never lived in Sonoma. I've worked here. I worked for the Benzingers in the early 2000s, and then for Sandra Bernstein at Estate, and then the Girl in the Fig. Worked at the Fairmont Sonoma Mission Inn, and then worked here. But I've never lived in Sonoma, mainly because I can't afford it. So we're over in Rohnert Park.
Rohnert Park.
We could afford.
No, Ropa. They're building a new downtown in Rohnert Park.
We're working on it.
Yeah, they are. The old State Farm used to be.
But I definitely spend, 70% of my time here in Sonoma.
It's a good
Well,
place.
I think that's very common.
Yeah.
You know, Sonoma's what, 8 blocks square?
It's not very large, the town itself. You're right.
8th Street to 8th Street.
It is small,
Yeah.
compact, walkable.
Yeah.
And a fair amount of people drive in. I drive in for work. So, yeah.
Where are you
it's
coming
pretty-
from?
I come in from further away. I come in from Windsor. So.
You're kidding me.
No, I got through Bennett Valley. I love it.
Isn't that the best commute?
It is a wonderful commute. You drop right down in Glen Ellen,
Yeah.
and if you do it right, today I couldn't do it, but you can stop at Les Pascal's, that French bakery.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I just got to do quality
Wow, they're
control
so
on their
good.
croissants just to make sure they're good.
Yeah.
Almond croissants.
Oh, those are good too.
Yeah,
it's
those are my
You just
favorite.
gotta wait when there's not a line going down the block.
I know, but Pascal's so nice. Oh,
Yeah.
hello, next. Hello.
Yeah.
How are you?
Yeah.
Ça va?
You know, and actually they make something for us at the holidays called flan. It's Parisian flan, not like a Mexican flan.
Okay.
Okay.
Imagine sort of a stiffer pumpkin pie
Oh, really?
consistency. I mean, to the point where you can literally carry it around in your pocket. Because I used to get them at patisseries.
Good for first responders
Yeah,
when they're
some-
fighting fires.
Some pocket flan. Would you like some pocket flan? It's okay. It's not the Spanish or Mexican type. It's the French type, so it'll hold up in my pocket.
I used to buy one and around Paris, and I'd put it in the pocket of my jacket and then take it
walk
home to the
around?
hotel. Yeah, I mean, I was just like carry it around.
I
Take
really
it
want
home.
to. This is like, you know how Rick Steves has Europe to the back door, and he has all these like tips and tricks. Here's his like, grab some flan and jab it in your pocket. And get on the
Carry it
metro.
around, baby. Take it home to the hotel. Have a good
Yeah.
night, man.
I'm
When
sure
you-
that's on the next Sonoma Visitors Bureau.
Five
You know.
places to
Pascal's.
have pocket
Grab some
pocket
flan,
pastries.
put it in your pocket in Glen Ellen, go to Talisman, and then when you're done with the tasting, if you're hungry,
See?
pull it right
That's
out of your pocket.
exactly it, baby. You got it. See you, Brian.
All right, Brian.
Bye, guys.
Have
to
a
see you,
great
thanks.
afternoon, man.
Oh, I'm sorry. What I wanted to say is, John, this is $2.99. So remember, we got to do something. For
$2.99. Well,
so we're working on
and
$300.
everybody who's listening, we're going to have a listener appreciation. Bart just called and wanted to see if we could do it next Thursday, so it would be out next Friday. So
Wait,
cool.
this is podcast $2.99.
$2.99 today, babe.
Nice, good job, guys.
Yeah,
Coming, so.
5 years.
That's phenomenal. Good job. I would like to be the first to congratulate you on your 300th episode.
Thank you very much, Tim. Totally appreciate it.
Yeah.
And you said you loved marketing. Do you have a marketing background?
I don't. You know, I have the perfect education for doing what I do because I majored in philosophy and English.
Excellent. Where'd you go to school?
I went to school in Milwaukee. It's called Marquette University.
Yeah, hey, Dare.
Oh, yeah,
I
don't you know?
Plenty
Oh,
of
yeah.
folks from Marquette.
Well,
I
my
mean,
wife's
being
from
from
there.
Chicago.
Yeah,
you know.
of course. Well, you're a fib, a fabulous Illinois
Uh,
buddy.
Other than that, on podcasts, we call it fucking Illinois bastards. So,
Thank you. So I can't say
And
when people do come to the visitor center and they are from Illinois, I say, "Oh, you're a fib," and they know that. Some of them do.
yeah, and we used to say on the radio in Chicago, "Welcome to Wisconsin. Smell our dairy air."
Exactly. So it is kind of fun. It is that kind of Wisconsin has a thing not against Illinois, and Illinois just has a vague recollection that Wisconsin exists somewhere up there. It's like there's two different animals. You know?
I used to race a lot up at Elkhart Lake.
Oh, you did.
Yeah, sports car racing.
You did. What would you race? I didn't know that. Hence why
Well,
you're wearing
I-
your cool Ferrari.
Yeah, I got to drive Ferraris. I got to drive Lotuses. I got to
What?
drive a lot of British cars. Yeah, it was really fun.
I did not know
Had
that.
a great time.
Really?
Yeah, wonderful.
You would
Great hobby.
Did you own these cars, or you race them for other people?
I raced them for other people.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, there was a
basically.
lot of-
I had a couple of British cars that I used to drive up there too. So.
That's interesting.
and
Okay.
Triumphs and stuff
Do
like
they
that.
break every third lap like a good British car
No,
did?
in
Okay.
fact, sometimes I would actually drive them up,
Really?
race,
And drive
you
them
know,
back?
and get it tech spec'd and tighten the wheels and all that
Right.
stuff that you have to do. But you have to realize it wasn't as technical back in 1980
Whatever
and 90,
time you were doing
etc.
it, 2005.
Yeah.
And are you watching all this Formula One stuff?
Absolutely.
Like how it blew up and became a big thing?
Well, you know, we've always been into it. I mean,
Yeah.
since the early 60s when I was a kid, it was great.
So
I
let me
mean, I
ask you,
loved that.
do you go to race your own car here at Sonoma Raceway? You can do
Yes.
that. You do that.
Uh-huh.
So they have the Wednesday night drags and drifts.
Even Joan has been on that track in her Mercedes two-seater convertible. Seriously. It's a classic car. It's 20.
And it's a great racetrack that people you can come watch, of course, NASCAR and all sorts of stuff like that, but you can also participate in and race your own car or the Ferrari people come
absolutely.
out and stuff like
we
that.
have
So-
a lot of fun. And Sam Couture, freshly in from special assignment. Welcome.
Special assignment to
in the field.
The Rossi Ranch.
That's where we figured you were. So.
I just love that we have like these microphones set up at back of the house and random people show up on the podcast.
Well,
I mean,
not random, but like anybody
call
coming by could just like hop on in.
That's pretty much the format, Tim.
Tim, it's very on brand.
It is.
We're on the driveway, the park. And truly unexpected guests at any moment.
I love this.
Oh,
I mean, you were expected clearly because you work here.
Right.
Your name's stuff on there, but yeah.
He owns the place.
It's you're running the rent check and stuff. But
I've spent today's Wednesday.
Yes,
I think
indeed.
I've spent like 2 hours at the office so far this week.
Well,
Maybe a little more.
what is it looking like in the fields, man?
What's going on?
How's the harvest going? With all this rain craziness?
The rain didn't do. There's not that much damage.
Good.
There's a little botrytis and some things you'd kind of expect there to be. We had because it's such a late crop and in a lot of things fairly heavy, we had thinned out and leafed a bunch of stuff already to try and get it to get ripe. So there was plenty of like airflow and room for stuff to dry out and not be a problem.
No canopy at all at this point?
No, there's still some canopy. There's actually a lot of canopy in places. But we're at this point. One of the winemakers that we work with basically said, it's not about waiting until things are ready anymore. It's about waiting for places to put it.
Oh, because everything's
everything is
Everything's full.
All the earlier ripening varieties are way late, and all the late ripening varieties are just a little late. So it's all we this week will pick Syrah, Zinfandel, Grenache, Mourvedre, Cabernet, and our white Rhones.
The old Pinot Cab combination,
And
classic.
Just like
And the white Rhones.
and the white Rhones,
Really?
from Rossi Ranch.
Grenache Blanc.
Grenache Blanc, Roussanne, and Claret.
Nice.
Yeah.
You're bringing in all those different varietals this week. Yeah, you got a storage issue.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, we make things complicated at Winery 16600, Tim. Some of it's being made at Stone Edge Farm, some of it's being made at Magnolia, and some of it's up at Repris. Oh, I didn't mention the Primitivo Rosé that went up to Repris yesterday.
Okay.
But all those wineries have storage issues of their own.
Right, they got their own crop coming in.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just, it's more like wait for a tank. So, everybody's sort of like furiously pressing out what they can to open up tanks to bring in more stuff.
I was going to say, this is funny. From the tourism aspect, people are like, should I come during harvest? Like, is that a great time? I'm like, yes and no. Because it's an insane... I was earlier saying how much I love and hate October.
Yeah.
Because it's bonkers. And there's so much craziness going on. And, like, beer makers don't have this problem, right? When they want to make beer, they open up a bag of hops and malt and they make it and some water. Your crop all comes in at once. And you really don't have
Sam
the
needs
luxury.
a glass of
Chardonnay.
You don't have the luxury. Yeah, he's got to forget the luxury.
These are
of that.
beautiful breakfast wines. Seriously.
As they should be. I'm going to try some here in a second.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that sounds like you got a lot going on, man.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Where are you percentage-wise? When we did the show 2 weeks ago, you were at less than 20%, you said. So,
I think we're probably at 65%, 70% as we sit here right now.
and at the end of the week, 75 maybe? A little more.
The end of the week, what am I doing on Monday? I'm doing Sangiovese, Cabernet, and Grenache next week, I know. And maybe some other Grenache. So, let's put it this way. By Halloween, I will be at, it'll be over what we expected, but everything we expected to bring in will be in. And then the rest of next week will be figuring out what to do with everything that's left.
How do you store that backup?
Yeah, I was wondering.
Oh, I mean, you don't store. If you have to, you can wait, 12 to 24 hours to process fruit.
Mm-hmm.
It's not ideal, but it's doable.
And it's cool outside.
You put it, it's coming in cool. Going, it was 45 degrees this morning at the Rossi Ranch at 6 a.m.
And you were there?
No, I showed up about 7:30. Just because I could today. We picked for a couple other people before they got to us, including Bart got his Grenache today.
And that's what he's. I just talked to him. He said he was expecting fruit. So.
Yeah, he was, when I left there, that's the other thing is like, because there's more fruit than expected. There's, we need more trucks, or there's less room on the trucks. So we were waiting for another truck, one for Bart's fruit and one for mine.
How do you track all this? Do you have a huge whiteboard, or is this all in your head? Do you have Excel spreadsheets? How are you doing this?
There's a little of all of the above.
Post-it notes, it's everything.
Yeah.
All the
The Bible right now is a daily email that comes out.
Okay.
Every day at 2:00, Enterprise Vineyards has a harvest meeting.
Okay.
And go over all of the entire plan for the immediate following day.
Okay.
And then sort of the sketch
What
for
they think might
next
happen.
few 4 or 5 days out of that after that.
And you're balancing labor, material, trucks, and then if it's ripe or not.
Yeah, so
Okay.
most of it is other winemakers making the call as far as
Right, because they've contracted with the
contracted
farmer.
fruit or
and they want
the farming, right?
They want a certain type of fruit coming in. Got it.
So so there's that piece of it. My father's phone right now just like rings nonstop with winemakers and vineyard owners, and
Right.
and then also like the entire management team. It's the biggest thing is the equipment to the crews,
Right.
and then the equipment.
So you got labor, equipment.
tractors, trailers, something to unload the tractors and load the trucks with.
Got it.
Whether it's a forklift or a lot of the
Right.
places that we farm, forklifts don't really work.
They won't fit up there. It's too much.
It's too muddy and
Yeah.
hilly, and
Right.
Forklifts are good on flat and hard.
Yes, you do not
surfaces.
want a forklift.
So we have like all these
What do they use
different-
up at Cayman and 16600 up on?
There's
Norman?
a Kubota tractor called the R420 that articulates in the middle and can be fitted for forks on the front. But it's definitely like a forklift goes up, down, left, right.
Right.
How do they do terraces?
Carefully.
They roll the grapes downhill.
Yeah, no, it's just you get to the end of the row and there's a whole lot of like making sure you're turning safely.
Coming back from Napa, just as you're turning at Nicholson Ranch, there's some beautiful terracing there. I guess it would be on the east side of the mountain. They just really did a nice job, and I thought they weren't allowing terracing anymore.
I think the on the south side of the road there.
Yeah.
I think those were built before those rules went into effect.
Okay.
Yeah. So if the terrace exists from grandfathered in from before the rules, you can continue to like replant it. You just can't cut new ones.
And you're actually
anymore.
cutting terraces, not planting it on the contour.
What's
Well,
the
a little
reasoning
above,
behind
yeah.
not having terraced anymore?
Erosion control. Basically, you can make arguments that going vertically up and down can be causes just as much erosion.
Yeah.
Basically, at some point, some vineyards were planted on slopes that they shouldn't have been.
Okay.
With some corners cut and some bad engineering, and both Sonoma County and Napa County put in pretty stringent rules on the slope that you can plant on, and
to stop erosion.
stop erosion.
And
Which
as you're
rains
driving over and you're sitting at that light, there's a beautiful vineyard in front, and it's all vertical rows, and it looks like it would drain like hell.
That vineyard might appear beautiful to an untrained eye.
It
John.
does.
It's
That
really
vineyard
hard to
is.
farm.
That vineyard is. I don't know who owns it. I'm gonna be pissing somebody. It's hot trash. That vineyard is Roundup sprayed under the vine row.
It's so clean,
and every
that's the
time
deal,
it
yeah.
rains,
Nice and orange.
it just pours. It
All
just
that crap.
all the topsoil
really?
just gets
and
washed
right
down
into
onto
the
the road.
creeks.
That's not a good
Yeah,
permaculture.
no, that vineyard is. That's not my favorite intersection for vineyards.
Let me real quickly.
yeah,
John,
yeah.
Don't find that vineyard guy for future sponsorship.
No.
Yeah.
Not going to do that.
Sorry, if you farm that vineyard, I sincerely
Well,
apologize.
and
but I stand behind what I said.
Andy Beckstoffer was telling us about having to retrain the tourists.
Yeah.
Because tourists look and they go, oh, well, this looks like a very unkempt vineyard, and it's organic and it's the way you should grow.
I want to say, I think winemakers and growers are doing a better job explaining, permaculture or, how we do stuff. And I think consumers are getting better at that too, understanding it.
I mean, I think it's a key point of what we talk about when you come into 16600. And Andy Beckstoffer's point, an organic vineyard doesn't necessarily mean any more unkempt. There are tons of ways of managing that, whether it's like more intentional permanent cover crops or better weed control, mechanical weed control, whatever you're doing. It's just about restating, and hopefully Sonoma Valley Visitors Bureau doesn't do this. But anytime, like a wonderfully rounded up vineyard gets posted in a sustainability initiative on the internet, I have a collection. You can save Instagram posts. I have a collection, screenshots, and one day I'm gonna cash in those receipts.
But I'll tell you one thing, because you're true. Because this is a great difference between the farmer, the vintner, and then this makes a beautiful photo.
Right.
And we once posted a lovely photo. It was this is back when I was at Sonoma County, and it was up in Alexander Valley, and the leaves were just this perfect shade of red. And I'm like, look at this beautiful fall foliage. And I had a farmer that is a diseased vineyard.
That is virus, Tim. That is virus.
Stop putting that photo out. And I'm like, but how am I going to compete with Vermont and their leaves?
Wisconsin.
In Wisconsin, yeah. Well, so you're absolutely right on that.
And that's what it's just it's a discussion point.
Well, but I want to say that jumping point, most Californians now are seeing, even in their cities, they're not using glyphosate and stuff on their parks. Right. So we're getting used to seeing that, our city parks, they're putting in cover crops, or they're using, the spray that smells like it's a different kind of spray to do.
Yeah,
herbicide.
Basically it's like a mix of vinegar and baking soda.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're getting used to the not perfect manicured look, understanding that's better for the environment. So I think that trains people to understand that. I also think, like you mentioned, at wine tastings, you say this is how we do stuff, right? And we're not growing one crop for 1 year. We're growing this for a lifetime and for generations. So we want to take care of the soil. Those roots go down
Your
30 feet.
Kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your dad say?
Oh, you are the tourism board. That was well said.
So you tell them that stuff.
You
gotta
plant a
get the story,
vineyard
right?
for your
You plant
kids.
grapevines for your children and olive trees for your grandchildren.
There you go.
That's totally it.
Perfect.
Right? It's a wise man that plants a tree whose shade he'll never sit in. And it's sort of like you've got to... I was trying to explain it to my kid. Right. I was pointing out in the city, he's like, you got to plant trees now because I won't enjoy them. Right. But I was pointing to my daughter, I'm like, your kids will. And that's why you plant them. Right?
In our backyard, we have 7 redwoods. And they had taken out a stump, but not completely. And so
So now it's got 1,000.
I say now you've got 1,000 redwoods.
I've got the sprouts. And I let them go, and I picked the best 5 or 6, and I let them go, and I finally picked the best one, and it's now a 50-foot redwood.
Yeah.
In 10 years.
Right.
So that's great.
Redwoods grow really fast. And they're wonderful trees. I know. Welcome to Tree Talk. But
Tim Zahner.
we get a lot of visitors asking us where they can see redwoods at the visitor center, and there's one right outside my window.
Right.
I'm like, well, redwoods grow really fast. Actually, they're lovely trees, but they're really wonderful where they should grow out in the redwoods. Behind your house, redwoods can be kind of be kind of intimidating when those branches are 50 feet in the air.
It's good to have it a little ways away from the house.
Exactly.
And you've been to my place.
Yeah.
They're all
They're
of
right.
20 feet?
Yeah.
And the 400 and some year old oak is maybe built 2 inches from our eave.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our house.
Your insurance agent doesn't listen to this, does he?
No.
Okay.
Although she's been over, so she's seen it. But, what can I say? I'm deep in the middle of some place that I doubt is ever going to burn. So.
Yeah.
Send people to the grandmother tree. I'm sure you do.
Yeah. We're talking about the grandmother tree over there.
In Jack London Park.
Yes.
It's actually a great hike from the parking lot up around the vineyard.
And this is at his home. Jack London's home, right?
It's up in the canyon behind the house, behind the vineyard.
Okay.
And it's just this tree that's, gone through every storm and broken off.
Yeah, been there forever.
And there's other trees growing out of the branch, the nooks of the branches. It's epic.
It's a great tree. Hunt Bailey, who runs Sonoma Adventures, talks about he loves going up there, and it's one of his favorite spots.
Yeah.
There's another grandmother tree, as they say, at the Sonoma Garden Park, And
really?
they call it a grandmother tree too. It's a beautiful old oak right there,
Okay.
next to the fig forest on
okay.
7th Street East. But
Okay.
yeah, that one up Jack London is those trees are so beautiful and awe-inspiring. When you get older, you're like, I can't even think about what that thing's been through.
Ours takes
Yeah.
4 people, arms outstretched, to go around.
it in your yard.
This one would take like
front. 10.
Your entire graduating
Yeah,
class.
a
or something.
picnic full of people, a big one. But, yeah.
Oh my! Well, it sounds like you've been busy and you've got a hell of a week coming up, and then tighten everything up, and so when
And then and then it never stops. Isabel shows up on November 6th.
Isabelle Gassier
from well, she's
Provence area, right?
from Costières de Nîmes,
Yeah.
east west of Marseille.
Okay.
And she will help
West
us sort
of
of finish
Marseille.
off
How cool.
the Grenache and the Auditettes.
Was this like a traveling winemaker? I don't know who Isabelle
Yes,
is.
so Isabelle Gassier, she was a protege of Philippe Combi. Her family has a large wine production, from bulk to super high end in Nîmes.
Okay.
And so trained in enology and viticulture, worked for Philippe Combi for a few years, worked a harvest for Bedrock, and then worked for Enterprise Vineyards for.
So she comes here every year.
So and then she went home, kind of got called home to work on the family property, but comes back 3 or 4 times a year and
that's great.
Sort of as our consulting winemaker. Not sort of, is
Well,
consulting winemaker.
They're the ones, Philippe and Isabella, helped you guys produce or start.
Right.
Auditette.
Yeah, and
Two heads.
the protocol, it's their protocol.
Okay.
So, yes, she'll be here, and then the day that she gets here, that evening, Brian and I head to Atlanta. We just got 16600 picked up in the Georgia market. So we're going down there. We have
Through a retailer. You're not shipping direct.
Are you gonna?
we ship direct just about everywhere.
Oh, okay.
That we're allowed to.
Exactly. I'm saying.
You're gonna be talking to
It's all legal.
Cork on the Road
Yeah.
podcast.
So
Good for you.
we're gonna Kelly. It's sort of
Good.
been like our advance man on this. She's
She's really good at that.
She's been
Yeah.
great. We'll be in a debt of gratitude. But we have some consumer events. We have a wine dinner at a place called Southern Belle on Wednesday, the 10th, I believe. No, it's 8th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 8th.
Atlanta's gonna be a good market for you, I think.
Yeah, Atlanta. I'm excited. The food scene's popping off there. They just did they just did a Michelin guide for Atlanta.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Or it's coming. So it's a great spot. And I'm excited to get down there. So we'll go down there for a few days and then turn right back around and be in the middle of all these tanks fermenting.
And then Thanksgiving.
And then Thanksgiving's right around the corner.
So here's the question: what is the right wine for Thanksgiving? There's only one answer, right?
Sonoma Valley wine.
Chenin Blanc from Bart. That's a
Chenin
good
Blanc
one.
to start. Maybe a little Grenache for the bird and Zinfandel to finish it off.
Okay, look at you. Okay.
I mean, Thanksgiving is the biggest red wine night of the year,
It's a big one.
right?
But you could do
more red wine.
Start with sparkling and people walk in the door or something like that. And I ask a winemaker what they should do for Thanksgiving. They all kind of look at me like they all have. There's so many options.
We're gonna this Thanksgiving. I'm gonna sleep.
Well done. Harvest will finish the night before.
I was going to open the Severson Cab Magnum that I have from what?
It's like 2012, 2013, something like that. Yeah, that'd be a good one.
You can drink that behind the redwood tree.
Well, friends coming up, family coming up from the Bay Area, so
Nice.
that should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah.
Give it an
Well,
hour.
it's like it's been sitting there and sitting there.
Staring
and
at
sitting
you.
there.
Staring
Yeah,
at
it's like,
damn.
damn.
We used to have when the Wall Street Journal had that column that opened that bottle night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that kind of faded away, and that they left. But we should bring
I'm
that
sorry
back.
about that.
Open that Sonoma Valley bottle now.
Open that, which is actually any day that ends in a Y.
Yes, exactly.
Perfect.
only days that start with T. Today, tomorrow, Tuesday, Thursday.
And Tatterday.
Perfect, man. Well, hey, we're heading into the holiday season. Obviously, people gift a lot of wine.
Mm-hmm.
We gift olive oil. It's a little more unusual than just a bottle of wine. So
I haven't even
take
thought
it to
about olive
parties.
oil yet. Fuck, John.
We're going to collapse right into that harvest, aren't we?
I was talking to Arden
They're going to overlap.
about olive oil, and I said that we use a sprayer. She goes, "Oh God, no! Don't do that."
Wait, sprayer on your olives, or
No,
spray
we
olive oil onto your
spray
food?
olive oil on in a pan, whatever, instead of pouring it.
I see.
You like get your own, you like the ones that you like buy it,
Yeah, sign of the bear.
and
it's
it's
a nice
you're
one.
spraying
Yeah.
the olive oil. Yeah,
I gotcha.
and she said no.
She freaked out.
Why?
Completely.
Why?
Rancid olive oil
Because,
in the sprayer.
In the mechanism.
and,
I
and
see.
Oil that
so
gets there, it's super exposed to oxygen and kills
I
rancid super fast.
interviewed the McAvoy Ranch people. They had very strong opinions about olive oil,
Yeah.
and they couldn't it should be fresh.
fresh, use it, buy more.
And
Small
you can put it on
bottles.
your toast, and you can put it in your coffee, and you can use it as a hair pomade. I mean, there was all over.
Maybe that's what
I'm
I
down
need.
for some. I'm down for some olive oil bulletproof coffee. I
guess that's
I
a
think
thing.
at this point, I think anything
You
coffee
should-
is appealing to me.
Coffee with coffee.
I got some nice Kona I could bring over, buddy.
That's what you should do.
I've been,
Good stuff.
I try and keep the coffee mixed up. I like our local coffee from Tim, the
Over
Yeehaw
Yeehaw coffee's good stuff. Yeah.
I get down the Groundworks has a regenerative organic blend that I've been buying a lot. I try and, other than Tim's, and I'm working on Tim on this. I try and make sure that the coffee that I purchase is at the very least organic. Especially if something that you're like leaching, you're pouring hot water on and like extracting all the goodness from it. I don't want any badness mixed in.
You don't
with
want the heavy metals.
Yeah,
and
totally.
The
Get
weird chemicals, the forever chemicals.
Don't
the
need that.
PFAS. It's not a big fan of that, huh?
No T-fall.
I try and avoid it. It's not always possible, and I'm sure I'll make some poor decisions, and later on.
No, that's a great point, because it's just like you're talking about agricultural
Yeah.
practices, coffee being one of them. You've got to respect the earth and grow it in a way that you are drinking. You're putting this literally in your body.
And it's like $1 or $2 more a bag.
Right.
So
Right?
where are they
worth it,
growing?
Worth it.
What, the coffee?
All over the places where coffee grows. I mean,
Yeah, but it's
I'm not necessarily tied to one region as far as my coffee consumption goes.
I'm hoping that Kauai coffee and Kona coffee is
There's organic coffee coming from Hawaii for sure.
yeah. Good.
Yeah, there's organic coffee coming from just about every coffee growing region. It's just a matter of supporting the people who are paying
What was I
for
told
the
by somebody?
certification and stuff.
If it's got a peel like a banana, it doesn't matter.
That sounds like some Monsanto sponsored bullshit.
Brought to you by.
Dole.
This episode brought to you by Bayer Monsanto.
If it has a peel, it doesn't matter.
But
That's an interesting
I still
angle.
buy. I buy Fuji
they're-
apples that are organic.
They're
Pineapple.
they're literally called systemic fungicides and pesticides.
Because they are in the blood.
You
In the
spray
soil.
them pre-emerge, before the the plant starts growing, and they get absorbed into the. That's
It's a flocculent.
or whatever they call it. Again,
Systemic.
yeah, that's some bullshit. It's not if the peel doesn't.
No,
matter.
look.
No, I mean,
it
you want
kills.
organic orange or a non-organic
Look,
orange.
it kills bugs. It won't definitely affect me.
Definitely
Come on,
will not.
only the bug.
No neonicotinoids.
Do you guys eat from the farmer's market at home?
I go to the farmer's market. This is funny. I go
Religiously.
I go to so many farmers markets. I go to the Friday one here
Yeah,
in Sonoma.
that's my
Friday
favorite.
mornings, I go to that one. Saturday, I go to one in Santa Rosa. My son used to work at that one. And then Sunday, Windsor, I go to that
you
one.
go to the Windsor
That's where I live. And I
another
see the
so-
same
the-
vendors.
The San Rafael one's good on Sunday morning.
Oh, that's a great
too,
one. Yeah. So
Yeah, it's Temple
I
Creek
love
at that
these
one.
markets. I buy like Padron peppers because I love Padron peppers, and I'm horrible at taking them off in time before they become super hot. And the shishito, so I have a guy.
Do you
the egg
promote
guy.
that in your
I
social
do.
media?
Oh,
and
all the
stuff?
time. But I mean, for social media, Sonoma Valley one definitely. On the other podcasts I do, the Sonoma Spiel, which is the second best podcast after this one. I usually start on Fridays.
Originates at KSVY.
KSVY. Support community radio. They,
Yes, you do. Thank you.
You definitely do. Yeah, so I do talk about it because I love going to Baker and Cook and getting some of her. She calls them beignets or donut holes.
Those
They're so good. I'm like, where are the donut holes? She goes, beignets. I'm like, donut holes, Jen. They're donut holes. I get those. I'll talk to the crepe lady. Tim's there with his coffee sometimes, and different, Mike the Baker.
Mike the Baker,
He's there.
yeah.
So I love
Mike
it.
has the consistently longest line.
Well, and Paul's produce.
Yeah.
Yes.
So my track is you go to Oak Hill Farm first.
Yeah.
And whatever.
Talk to Jimmy the Pumpkin
You
guy.
talk to Jimmy the Pumpkin guy and Melissa and Arden. The other Arden.
Yes.
Arden.
There are two?
There are two Ardens.
Amazing.
And they both they're both.
And they have opinions.
They both have opinions. My mother and Arden Buckland.
Seriously.
And then what you can't get from Oak Hill, you go and then wait in the Paul's line.
And then Patch, they have a farm stand. If you don't make it to the
Right,
farmer's market, you can just go up to the farm stand there on First Street East.
I was
Second Street.
there last week, and our meat guy, Victorian Farm Stands,
So
gone.
they are sadly ended their farmers market business.
They're still in business.
They're still in business. I
Mail
you know,
order.
I get
they'll
the
deliver.
I got the emails, and they're doing delivery, and then still at the Sebastopol market. They have, like,
Mail
Have you been
order.
to that market?
I love that's like that's just a
man.
dangerous place. I can only go there on payday. You know?
So that's the one that my son would work at, and he came back. This is during COVID. He picked up a job making tacos and burritos for a guy there, and he came back. Goes, Dad, someone told me that 5G is going to activate inside of me. I'm like, where were you? I'm like, Sebastopol. I'm like, oh, that's fine. That's totally normal, son.
It is
par for the
definitely a
course.
strong slice of West County. God bless him.
Like, I showed up and ordered a burrito, and he was wearing a butterfly costume. He's like, but Dad, it's April. It's not Halloween. I'm like, yeah, that's Sebastopol. Yeah, that's cool, man.
Keeps Sebastopol weird.
The drum
Right.
circle breaks out at 1 o'clock. It's hilarious.
God bless it.
Well, you've been here for an hour. We really haven't talked a whole hell of a lot about what you do. So.
I thought I just do podcasts.
Yeah, well, you do a podcast. Sonoma Spiel, where is that
I
available?
think I'm gonna go check into my office and then head to the winery.
See what's happening.
Yeah, but
Where are you going?
the fruit went to Magnolia today.
Okay.
Yeah,
What are they making?
we had. So this was the other thing is like, tank space is such a premium. You have to be really careful and bring in exactly the right amount. So we were out there weighing every bin. So we have 3.45 tons of Grenache and one bin of Mourvedre, which is about 900 pounds. So we're at like 4.85 or 3.85 tons. So we can go into a 4-ton fermenter.
So, how many bottles is that going to make?
Look at that. Look at that.
Per ton.
And when you're saying a bin, you're talking
think
about those macro bins?
Yeah.
Okay.
That actually sounds like
I think
you
it's
know
about
what the hell you're talking
185
about,
cases,
Tim.
John.
How many?
3.85 times, what do I call it? 55.
Yes, how many grapes?
211
How many
cases.
grapes per ton?
200 cases. Maybe about 200 cases.
Okay. Wow, really?
Yeah.
In one fermenter.
In one fermenter.
Okay.
That comes down, doesn't it?
The goal is to, if you bring in a lot, especially with the way that we make wine, they're field blends, single vineyard wines. You don't want to be in more than one fermentation vessel.
Oh.
You want, and there's like sort of ideal sizes of fermentations, especially in our range of like small production. I like having 2 tons of something more than 1 ton of something. To have like enough critical mass for really good fermentation. But the vessel, we're not going to fill up more than like a 4 or 5 ton fermenter at one
If there's
time.
a lot of airspace up top, is that bad?
You have to have airspace on top because as it ferments,
This is an open top fermenter.
the skins, the skins rise.
Oh, right, okay.
And the cap comes up, and you want to. So you
Do the punch.
and then there's also like they'll get you see it every once in a while on some winemakers' Instagram during this time of year that they'll have some fermentation tank that overflows because it's bubbling. It's creating CO2, and then
the explosion happens
over the top of the tank. So you're trying to avoid that because that sucks. It's dollars going down the drain, but it's also a huge fucking
Did you
mess.
see that post about the Italian winery that the tank broke and it released like millions of gallons into? I mean, it was an industrial winery, so and it just flooded the streets of this village.
That'd
It
be
was
crazy. Can
crazy
you
watching
imagine?
this go down the hill.
It sounds like a big insurance policy.
And then you're trying to keep it out of the creek, right?
They
'Cause that's
needed
the
a
issue.
new tank.
They
and
needed a new.
They
needed a
they
new
got
Ferrari,
it.
probably.
Insurance.
Hey, they're not bad.
And that's how you blame it on the intern.
Great cars,
Oh, that
man.
intern. I can't believe the intern did all that.
First day on the forklift.
Oh, my
Good.
gosh.
Well, I guess we know the essence of tourism in Sonoma.
Yeah, no, it's wine tourism is probably our. I mean, it's funny. Actually, people don't come here to drink wine because you can do that at home, and you should join the wine club of Winery 16600 when you get a chance.
Of course.
But
Phil sent me.
But people come here for the scenic beauty and to see the experience of the wine. Because you couldn't drink wine in Chicago.
Yes.
But what really people come here to see is to be around that experience and also the open spaces.
I mean, and this is what I talk about all the time. We get to make wine, especially the way that we do it, but everybody here, you get to make wine from places that are really beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And, could you make the exact same tasting wine if you did the same things from a place that isn't necessarily as beautiful? Maybe. Mm-hmm. But connecting people to those places through those wines and having them here see take a tour of a vineyard, do a tasting on top of the mountain, and then go home and have that wine and be able to go back.
Correct.
Is why the wine tourism
is so valuable,
it's a thing
because people love to see vineyards.
Right.
People love to see vineyards.
Beautiful.
And they are beautiful, and they love that experience. And also they love to meet, like, the winemaker. You can walk into the you're going to walk in there, and there's people tasting wine, and they're like, oh, look who's here. Right.
And this time of year, I'm not too dirty today because I got there late. But you're dirty.
Why don't you rub some dirt on your face over there?
Smell bad. I got to meet a winemaker. He smells like crap.
and when you're back there in Oak Park, Illinois, you're
exactly.
The Couturiers made this. The guy
Remember
smelled
when he
really
smelled?
bad. But
Reeked. It was
try
like
this Chardonnay.
Dirt and fermenting grapes and spilled coffee and
desperation and anger.
Sweat and weed and.
Speaking of, how about the cannabis tours?
Actually, cannabis is interesting. We, of course, have it in our visitor guide.
That's cool.
We have one of the issues we
Child
have
of
with
the 60s
cannabis.
here.
I'm trying to leave, John, but now you
brought
me back in.
One of the problems / opportunities is laws have not quite caught on with society. Maybe is a way to put it. So we do promote cannabis.
Nice promotion.
And we've been trying. This is the hardest part, is trying to get a harvest report. We've done our third now of the cannabis harvest, and then a local PR guy, Michael Coates, will be releasing that information tomorrow. But I've been trying to get the farmers to give me an update so we can do. Right. Just like the grape growers, I mean, as you know, every grape grower tells you that either yield is up and quality is up, or yield is down and quality is up every year. But
we just keep getting better.
But
by the way, yield is up, quality is sky high.
Took it to
funny that
level.
I already had that press release written. Thank you. No, so with the cannabis, I'm trying to do the same thing, right?
Well, Mike Benziger was in the paper the other day about late harvest means better buds.
But the biggest issue is you currently can't do. Right now, anyone from this winery, any customer, you could take them to a vineyard, show them around, taste some wine there, and that'd be great. But with cannabis, you can't do that. And so it is a little bit more difficult to explain.
I thought there were actual tours, though.
There are tours. You cannot taste anything. You can't buy from that farm.
Right.
So if there was, John's Cannabis Farm, I can't go there and take a tour. You're like, hey, this is how I grow it. It's sun and blah, 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 blah. And then you can say, hey, you can try this. It was grown right here, and you can buy it. You 100% cannot
join
do
my
that.
club. I can ship it to you to Oak Park, Illinois.
Cannot do any of that. You've got to go to Spark and buy. So now it's gone through a distribution system, taxed every single way. And you don't have the same experience where, as we were discussing earlier, like the permaculture or the organic aspect of grape growing, you can't really show that with cannabis yet because the federal government and the state government and the county government.
So I'll also argue, though, that the way that cannabis is currently marketed and consumed isn't ready for that either.
That is a great point.
Because, I long for the days the future where we talk about cannabis in the way that we talk about Chardonnay.
Right, I got the Chardonnay right here, 2017 Chardonnay.
From Moon Mountain District.
Moon Mountain.
In fact, you turn it around and it says what vineyard it's from.
I've got a whole story in here.
The industry and the marketplace and the laws aren't ready for this product is a strain grown this year under these conditions at this person's ranch.
Right.
Because it's been so much like, it's still
like, psst,
it's still like in the closet
gummies?
prohibition, where and there's still this value in the market on grown in a warehouse in Santa Rosa with a bunch of. It drives me crazy.
I see that, and that does drive me. I'm glad.
I want to start a campaign T-shirts and bumper stickers that says "Legal weed sucks."
But we all knew
because
this.
that way of growing things.
We knew this when it was being voted on. I'm sorry, we're going into the weeds here. We knew the big players and the factory farmers were going to be the biggest movers.
Right.
So what had to happen was, and it's going to have to happen, is the smaller growers and the smaller producers are going to have to get very creative with the marketing and the concepts of terroir or a family ground or organic. And just like coffee. Right. Remember, coffee for a long time was just coffee. It was Folgers and U-Ban. And maybe it was pretty bad to the people that grew it, right? Factory farms, and the labor wasn't treated well, the earth wasn't treated well. Starbucks
Juan
came
Valdez?
A mere corporate spokesperson from Madison Avenue.
Aunt Jemima?
So, right, none of these are real people. So what cannabis has to do is say, like, I'm a small farmly grower. This is what we're doing. It's about quality. I respect my labor. I respect the streams. I'm not over-fertilizing stuff. Right. But so much of it, you're right, over by the airport and in Santa Rosa, it's this big warehouse.
Well, and the world needs to stop buying the value-added products, the edibles, the tinctures, the whatever. That's fine. But if you're buying a flower to consume in a joint or a bowl, however, vape, whatever, stop buying it because the percentage of THC is better than this one, and it looks prettier in the high times centerfold. Buy it because of where it was grown and how it was
back to terroir. It's like the difference of Monster energy drink and wine. Yeah. I mean, one is like just a chemical you're putting out there.
Right. Well, what is the ratio now, legal to black market, quote unquote?
Oh, of consumer purchasing?
Yeah, I mean, I still think like legal's like 10% of the consumption here.
I think I don't know. Isn't it the nature of a black market? It's hard to
it
know
is.
what's going on there, the gray market.
But Sarah Pan has addressed this on her podcast, Planted, on Radio Misfits Podcast Network. Folks, you can hear that.
Good friend.
Yeah, Jeff Pearson's wife.
You have a good point there, because grapes are very transparent.
Right.
And you can find out
everything that I do and every grape that we bring in is tracked.
Right.
And they try to do that with cannabis, but it's also way harder.
But then there's like sketchy vape cartridges out there that people are buying, and you don't know where those come from, right? So that's like,
so
who knows what's in there?
Where does Mike Benziger sell La Bamba?
I mean, he sells it to Spark. More than anything else, I assume.
So can you go in and say, I want La Bamba strain, and they've got it?
That's a
because their stuff is kind of, the Spark stuff is kind of ditchy.
Cost.
I mean, it's lower THC, and but that's what they push.
Again, legal weed sucks.
Spoke is a true connoisseur.
It's the way that the market is and the laws drive the production of most of the weed that you can get in a dispensary. It can't be the best product.
Best as far as like quality.
As far as quality, the way to get how difficult it is to get a permit, what the permits entail,
right?
Especially and the cost of a permit, and the cost of the production. You have to, and it has to be light dep at the very least. You have to do things to push production to make money, as opposed
rewards
to
mass market, big pocketed
100%
businesses.
Walmart.
So you can't be like a winery, even though there's a lot of regulations.
Right.
You could be a smaller player and try to start your own winery, and maybe there's less regulation.
I wonder when you can go buy a pound at Costco.
The barrier to entry is I mean, it's still high, but it's
for legal,
for to be legal. And it's changed a little bit, and it's slowly coming around. But to put in an acre of outdoor cannabis, it's just like, it's insane. And you see these places pop up, and then they fail because
I haven't smelled it this fall.
Well, that's been out there a little bit.
Maybe a little bit on Highway 12.
I haven't. No.
It hasn't been quite as strong.
Yeah,
hasn't been hot. What? Maybe, I don't know. Maybe the breeze. I don't know. That's
so what can a single person grow? 5, 6?
I think 6.
6 plants.
Yeah. Huh? Per person. So
per person, per household.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Hey, I've grown 2.
Get some roommates.
20 roommates.
Prop it up.
2 plants produce so much that
well, that's the other issue.
Is
that my understanding is that there's a kind of a glut in that market.
Right.
And now it's
both legal and illegal.
Yeah, literally in my street, not my street, around the corner from me, there's a guy Raider Mike, we'll call him that 'cause that's his name, and he loves the Raiders. And someone said, "Hey, Raider Mike's growing weed in his front yard." I'm like, "That's BS." So I walk over there. There's like 3 plants in his front yard where you plant tomatoes.
Because nobody cares anymore.
And nobody stole them.
Right.
He harvested them. That just shows how much they're worth.
I used to hear people would plant. They'd take 30% for themselves, 30% for the cops, and 30% to be stolen.
Oh, there you go.
That was their plan.
Wait a minute. There's still 10%.
10% for personal consumption.
I'm like, wait a minute.
Roll another
Get out of here
one.
before I get arrested.
Good to see you.
This is great.
Take it, George.
All right, Sam.
There you go.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Much appreciated.
Happy harvest.
Yeah, how's
And Happy New Year.
How's the
All the way
cannabis harvest looking this year?
Suffered a little more from the rain than
Yeah.
All right.
other things. A little detritus.
Go Mike Benziger.
I'm sure, he doesn't have grapes to worry about anymore, so I'm sure that he was on top of it.
He can
absolutely.
spend all his time on that. Yeah. So, see ya.
All right. Well, tourism is fun in Sonoma.
It is
Slow-Noma.
Sonoma Aroma.
But this is the essence. It is the community. It is the grapes. It is what everybody does together.
Yeah.
And it's, Phil Cotturi once told me, I was born in Iowa, and we were talking about dead soil and what they grew in Iowa. I mean, it's corn and soybeans, right? And that's it. And he said, well, we're lucky. We grow intoxicants here. and there's obviously a good basis for that because that's essentially what it is. And people are enjoying it. They come out here. We have people who come out and do tours based on the restaurants we talk about,
Right.
the vineyards we talk about, the hotels we
The
like.
spas, the wellness experiences. Yeah.
It's been amazing. Joni and I have been coming out here since 1987.
Oh, okay.
It was our first time here. And, and then we started going over to, like, Calistoga for the ash baths, volcanic ash baths. And
Throw
things
some mud
like
on
that.
you. Yeah.
I will never do a mud bath ever, ever, ever again in my entire
Why, did it
life.
slough your skin off, or what happened there? Just feel weird?
It's just like, please. Seriously, get me out of this tub filled with mud. It's gross.
It is.
Sorry.
It's a thing, right?
And it is,
Yeah.
And I can remember the very first Sonoma winery we went to, because we always bypassed Sonoma and went to Napa.
Okay.
And we went to Larson's.
Yeah.
And it
Which
was
is really
Sonoma
close. We come up from
Creek
San
at
Francisco.
that time. And all they had was a couple of wine barrels in the barn with a board across them, and they would pour wine for us.
2 barrels and a plank, man.
Very
That's all
cool.
you need.
Yeah.
That's all you need.
But that's kind of where we started. And then, moving into Sonoma, a dozen years ago, of course, and then being on the radio here.
Right.
It,
Well, you're kind of a big deal.
right. The point is, I met Sam and Bart and Brian. And I would go to the Girl and the Fig after I'd get off a radio show, and I'd sit at the end of the bar, and people would come in to sell Brian wines. He would introduce me. That's the way I met Mark Pope, who did the Bounty
So
Hunter.
you were
and
just
all
a guy. You weren't in the wine business. You
I
were
was
just
not.
a guy there at
I was
the
a
bar.
advertising marketing guy who retired and moved to Sonoma.
That's the secret. Be a barfly, and you get to taste a bunch of samples.
Well, but then I got him on the radio show in the Vine Country at the
Okay.
station.
Yeah.
When I was doing that, that's what grew into this podcast 5 years ago.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's a smart idea.
Well, the guy who handled my IT and computers and stuff like that at the ad agencies, because we had New York and we had Chicago, and a lot of computers to work on, new software.
Right.
It was just the late 90s through 2000s. It was very important. But he started doing this podcast network, and he kept badgering me. I think I could probably count on 2 hands the listeners we had on terrestrial radio 15 years ago.
Right.
But now we've got over 400,000 listeners in 30
Because
countries.
the distribution
it's
is,
amazing.
it's that digital revolution.
It's
and
changed.
The long tail of content out there.
Oh, absolutely.
It is crazy.
Well, so Sonoma Spiel, where can people hear that?
So Sonoma Spiel, Spiel, which is kind of a weird word. It's a
okay.
Yiddish or German word to
like
speak or
it.
to chat. We record every Friday at KSVY. You can find it on all your major podcast platforms, also on YouTube. Because, this might shock people who are listening. I'm actually a really good-looking guy, and I think I deserve to be seen.
I totally agree.
How lucky it is for you to see me
Hey,
right
my
now.
wife's in love with us. So it's like,
So we do.
Tell
We
Tim
put
hi.
it on YouTube, and what I love is not only do we interview people, kind of like what you do here, But our topic is anything Sonoma Valley. So it could be wine. It could be someone who's an artist. It could be a writer. I'm trying to get Ada Limon, the U.S. Poet Laureate.
Yeah, we had her on about
I knew it.
couple months
You guys
ago.
grabbed her before I did. That same day, she's like, "I'm doing another podcast."
Is that it?
She has a bench in front of readers' books.
Yeah, we
right?
did,
Really
yeah.
cool. Had the mayor. But yeah, we also a fun thing we do.
Go
is
back and find that on our archives.
maybe I'll just play it. I'm just gonna grip it and rip it.
Fine.
And I'll just
Fine.
dub in my own questions.
That's great.
Oh, genius.
You can
idea.
do
I'm saving
that.
myself so much time. We do a thing called We Get Questions, where we answer people's questions that I get at the visitor centers.
Yeah.
And that's really fun because oftentimes for locals, they don't understand the kind of questions we get. Like someone asking, speaking of redwoods, when do they lose their leaves?
Now.
Well,
No, right on my back
well,
deck.
they do, but they don't actually lose them forever.
They push
like
them
they
out.
just shed them.
Yeah.
They shed them, and they're
Push
always
out the
there.
old ones.
And a whole discussion about are they sequoias or not? Like yes and no, and blah blah blah. So it's a fun part. I love doing the podcast.
How did you get into this?
Doing podcasts?
No, not
Oh.
just the podcast, the tourism business.
Oh, tourism.
What's your background?
Oh, gosh, how do you get into tourism? Okay, so I think I mentioned earlier I majored in English and
Yeah.
philosophy, so therefore unemployable.
At Marquette.
At Marquette.
Beautiful spot,
Yeah,
too.
go Warriors. It's a good spot. Milwaukee's a good town. It's a fun town.
Absolutely.
So I did nonprofit fund development, communications, worked for a think tank, was a news writer for a weekly newspaper, freelance writer, everything. Bartender, did a lot of bartending, laid tile, carpet, construction demolition.
Man about town.
Man about town. I ran a swimming pool at a country club. So I got into tourism specifically after my wife and I, we were living overseas. We lived in Haiti for a year, and we did work down there. We came back. She was pregnant, and I needed a job, and I was living in Oakland at my grandfather's house. And I applied for a job at San Francisco Convention and Visitors Bureau at the time. And they eventually hired me because I had done some travel writing before.
Smart move on their part.
I think so. I did their PR. So I was doing public relations for San Francisco. That is a great place.
I guess so.
It was a good job. And
Yeah.
actually, that was back when Nancy Pelosi first got elected. So everyone was mad. I had to answer all the angry letters about San Francisco values. So
Well,
that was fun.
and the city has been going through some bad PR. But look, it's one section of town.
Well, you know what?
And
Yeah.
you get out into the city,
The
and it's
neighborhoods are
spectacular
great.
and
My
beautiful.
sister's
I
raising
love
3
that
kids
town.
there. San Francisco, first of all, people love to hate on San Francisco to
Absolutely.
a certain degree, but people also love to love San Francisco. So people love to have opinions about San Francisco.
Well, go back on its history. It's always been bawdy, drunken, sailor.
It's very
Barbary
transitory.
Coast.
Even the military
Rough,
was there for a
rough,
long
yeah,
time. But it's also a history of boom and bust. And that is the story of, San Francisco has always been boom and bust. It's not like it has one stable industry, like tech boom, right? Insurance, they left. Banking was there. Gold was there. The military was a huge employer from like 1940.
Look at the Presidio, one of the most beautiful spots on this earth. Seriously.
I know. Can you imagine being stationed there? You're like
I'd
some
love
little
it.
private, and you're like,
Love
here's
it.
my view of the Golden Gate Bridge and
Yep.
the East Bay Hills and whatever.
Spectacular.
So San Francisco is a wonderful place to visit. If people are listening, I would encourage them to come visit because most people land in San Francisco or Oakland and see
Absolutely.
the city
Sure.
and then come up. You can do a whole town and country experience. I'm going to give you a tip. Ready? Here's a tip. San Francisco is traditionally cheaper on the hotels on the weekends, and we are cheaper on weekdays because San Francisco, a lot of the hotels around Moscone are for conventions.
Right.
So Moscone
Yeah.
Center, the convention center.
Have
so
been there, done that.
go there on a Friday, spend your weekend in San Francisco, then spend 5 days in Sonoma, Monday through Friday.
Stay at my favorite place, the Fairmont on Snob Hill.
Oh, right. Good
Love
spot.
that spot.
Good spot.
Man,
Go to the Tonga room.
We used to. Well, I used to travel here so often
right.
for business and did a lot of speaking, and we always rented 262, the Harrison Ford suite.
Okay.
This is like in
The Harrison
this
Ford
is
suite. Is that-
maybe 1990 whatever, but I mean the parties we used to throw.
Good times. Why? Because did you have someone
God.
else's credit card in your pocket? You had the old
Well,
expense
my
account?
my ad agency.
Ah,
and
see, that's right, little madman.
I had
Okay.
I had clients.
So Don Draper's up there at the
and we'd,
Fairmont.
we'd call down and order, 20 shrimp cocktails,
That's right.
and 20 bottles of booze.
And throw in
and
some lobster while you're down
go
there.
over to Haight-Ashbury and, entertain.
Good times
I've
were had
got
by all.
photos of friends drinking beers and smoking joints on the parapet outside our second floor room at the Fairmont
you call it the
Hotel.
Harrison Ford suite.
Yeah, it's hysterical.
Should talk to Michelle, their PR person, to get the stories.
Oh, God. that was a different era in my life.
But
I'll
Knott
say
Hill's
that.
let's just talk about that. It's
Love
a
it.
beautiful place. The Mark Hopkins is across the street there. You have this
Yeah.
view. You go up the top there.
Spectacular.
It's
It is
wonderful there.
literally the
Yeah.
top of San Francisco.
Yeah, and a cable car goes up there.
Yep.
It's
a tough hike up that hill.
Well, it really makes your glutes work.
Yep.
That's why everyone's fairly
But
fit.
You
know?
go down the right, so you pull out of the Fairmont, walk to the right, and turn right again, and you're right in Chinatown.
That's right.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And you go the other way, and there's French restaurants on Pine that we always love.
Yeah.
I mean, it was.
They always say in
our
San Francisco, you
headquarters.
can't get a bad meal in that town because the bad restaurants don't make it. Right. So
Right.
San Francisco is a definite. Before there were foodies, San Francisco was a destination.
Yeah, we've always had fun down there. I mean, we went to a play, Les Mis, the other day at the Orpheum.
Okay. Oh yeah.
And found this little hole in the wall in an alley of,
Yeah.
of a Italian restaurant that was so good. Best pizza and pasta
Oh, yeah?
I've ever had.
You know, it's Italian
it's a hole
food.
in the wall.
No, it's hard to find. There used to be a lot more Italian food, a lot more Chinese food in America, and then those were like the de facto ethnic quote unquote restaurants in a town.
Chungking.
Yeah, but now
Chef Boyardee.
there's not. When you find a really good Italian restaurant, it is amazing because you go like, this is what fresh, delicious pasta tastes like, and the sauces are fantastic, and everything's perfect. So,
My go-to around here is Cafe Chiti.
oh yeah,
I mean, we had our 22 years ago this week. Actually, we had our wedding
oh
party
you did
there.
22 years ago this week.
Yeah.
23 years ago this week.
Congratulations!
Look at that, you too.
We ran away. Joan's sister was a meeting planner in New York City.
Okay.
So she always had these grandiose ideas.
Mm.
So we basically ran away.
Away from her sister.
A client friend who worked for Playboy.
Okay.
And Joan's sister and her partner from Portland. The four of us went and Joan and I went over to the back of Gunlock Bunchu.
Okay.
We had a minister from the Presbyterian Church,
Okay.
one of the only guys who would actually do it.
That's right.
Made up our vows on the
good.
spot.
Yeah, I promise to. You're looking around.
Yeah. Well, I promised to get Joan coffee in bed every morning.
Oh, that's nice of you. That was back before
I
you had
did
Keurig.
Sunday, but
what a good guy.
Not this week so far.
Well, there's
So,
still time.
I've been up later than you.
There's still time.
Yeah, there is.
So you got married at Gun Bun.
Yeah.
We do get a lot of people coming here for weddings and retreats and elopements and stuff like that. It's very popular.
Luca has the best rotisserie chickens I've ever had, and he
Wait,
makes the
better
best
than Costco rotisserie chicken?
lasagna, and
It is good.
my God, his polenta.
One of the
with
first
his
meals I had
sauce
here
on top.
when I moved up here.
Yeah.
Someone took me to Cafe Chiti. I'm like,
That's
this
great.
is amazing.
And he had to move from Kenwood.
Right. He moved a
after-
little further to extreme northern Sonoma Valley.
Yeah, well, Santa Rosa,
Yeah.
just as you get in, Farmers Lane turns
Yeah.
into 4th Street,
It's right there.
Flamingo Hotel on your right, and Cafe Chiti on your left.
And Matt Flamingo, I can give a pitch to them.
classic.
Enormous swimming pool,
Classic.
great cocktails.
Classic.
They've put a little bit of money in an amazing refurbishment, so it's a great renovation up there. If you haven't
Well,
been up there, it's really
and
nice.
it had kind of fallen on hard times, but any place that's pink and has a flamingo on top, you gotta go
I
in.
drive
just
past it on my way to work, and I love it. I just like giggle because
Every
this
time.
used to be the outside of town,
Yeah.
right? And it was a resort, and the Raiders would hang out there. And
Really?
yeah, that was one. They had a huge pool, and the Raiders also used to go to Los Robles Lodge when they would play up here. So for readers who don't, or listeners who don't know, there used to be a team called the Raiders that used to like a town called Oakland, but they're owned by a jerk, and they left. Can I
now
say that?
Vegas and not doing well.
Yeah,
with Jimmy
that's-
G.
let that be a lesson to
They
you.
are sucking.
That's
big time.
right. Well, are we talking about Las Vegas or the Raiders?
I'm talking about the Raiders.
Okay, sorry. Right. So anyway, they would come up to Oakland and come up to Sonoma County and do their summer camps up here.
Oh, okay.
Pre-training camps. Then Napa after a while. But they would hang out at the Flamingo at the pool, have a good time. So
I'm sure.
probably like you at the Harrison Ford Suite.
Absolutely,
Very
man.
except a few more mistakes.
Ah, yes. Everybody's got one of those in their background. So, hey, I do have a question from a listener.
Sure.
The front of one of the fronts of our city hall
Right.
has a whole bunch of flags out there that
Yes.
represent the different ownership of Sonoma, correct?
Yeah, I mean ownership, you could say, but the different countries that have laid claim to
Right.
this land.
So you've got Spain,
Correct.
Mexico,
Mm-hmm.
the Bear flag,
you actually have two Mexicos.
Okay.
You have the first Mexican Republic.
First, and then after the bear flag?
No. So
just
you had
two Mexicos before.
Actually, yeah, it goes like this. This is kind of funny. So Spain's there, but also supposedly English because Drake's Bay is this. He claimed this land.
Okay, right.
You should probably state that actually in the beginning, and still Pomo, Patwin, Miwok, Native American indigenous tribes were here and are still here.
With no flag.
No flag
Right.
that we know of, although I'm sure there's probably now some sort of symbol. But yeah, so the Spanish Empire was here back when they were sending out galleons.
And we were the furthest most outpost
We were
of Mexico, correct?
the ass end of the empire. We were
I preferred further northern.
we were the end of the road of the El Camino Real.
El Camino Real.
So
you
Spain,
still see those bells hanging
correct.
on Highway 37.
So Spain kind of controlled a huge swath of the New World, and the very, very tippy top of it was us here in Alta, California. And they had missions. 21 of them started in modern-day California. 21 missions, starting in San Diego, work all the way up. Sonoma was the end of the mission road. And you can see what's called the King's Highway, El Camino Real. These bells that the state has put up to show the pathway that the Franciscans
Good old Highway 37.
That's right.
Sometimes you can sit for hours and look at those bells.
Yeah, and a horse can get right past you much faster. And each mission was built about as far as a man could walk or a mule could walk, about 30 miles per day from each other. But there was also not just the Spaniards, but the Russians.
Yes,
They were at Fort Ross. They came down from Alaska.
And the Russian River.
And the Russian River was there. It's absolutely there. So we had the Russian flag, the English flag, the two Spanish flag, two Mexican flags. The Bear Flag Revolt. Sire, the peasants are revolting, right? So we had a revolt here where the Californios or some different Anglo speakers / Spanish speakers / Mexican speakers or Mexicans wanted independence from Mexico because they were being controlled by Mexico City or Monterrey.
Way away.
Very far away. They said, forget that. They weren't allowed to trade with the settlers, for example, at Fort Ross, or even with the indigenous people. So they revolted. But also there was a little bit of, perhaps jingoism and manifest destiny in that too, and that portion of American history. So we declared ourselves an independent republic, and we were our own state, take that Texas, our own nation for 21 days. Proudly, the California Republic. We have a bear flag, and the bear is on that flag and the star. And then we joined the United States, and we've been part of the United States ever since. So those flags are all up there on City Hall, and they showcase how many different powers have had dominion over this land, I guess.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing, seriously.
It is. And I think you can see the original bear flag. You can't actually see it. That one burned after the 1906 earthquake in San Francisco, but a genuine, authentic replica in the barracks of just north of the plaza.
Yeah, Sonoma Barracks.
The Sonoma Barracks, yeah.
And the Hooker House and all,
There's
it
a
goes
whole
back.
bunch of, there's the Toscano Hotel there. There's the actual
Blue
mission,
Wing.
the Blue Wing Inn, which will hopefully eventually get refurbished.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
I'm surprised they haven't. I mean,
all we need is a couple $1 million.
is that it?
So whoever's listening,
There you go. Hey, Roger Randall.
write a check.
Send it. Send it, baby.
Yeah, no, so there's a bunch of historic
Send
buildings
one to
up
the
there.
radio station, too.
Please do. KSUY. There's a lot of history here and a lot of things to do here, but those flags do show that the different history that was here in this area.
Well, and so you talk about being a one-trick pony.
Mm-hmm.
No, we're not.
Right.
We've got wine, we've got cannabis, we've got all of this history, which is amazing. I love the story about going, the Bear Flag Revolt guys going to Vallejo and sort of saying, well, you have two choices. Right? We can imprison you, or you can be governor of our new territory.
Well, that's kind of a hard choice. I'll be governor.
I think so. And at Three Sticks Winery, that's the villa of one of the brothers.
It's the historic
and
Adobe,
then, of course, General's daughter, where we used to go when it was functioning. It would be nice if we saw that again, wouldn't it? And then, of course, the actual Sunflower Cafe.
Yeah,
that
that
whole
was
building and
Salvador Vallejo's house.
Yeah.
So the Vallejo, Mariano Vallejo, was an early. I can't remember if he was born under Spain, then became Mexico, then became California, then became America. Like he I don't know if it's just Spanish, but he was a character that kind of bridged all these different parts of Sonoma and California history. And he had a lot of historic buildings, including his old house.
Yeah. It's very cool.
Which came around the horn.
And with beautiful little areas and backyards. I mean,
little patios.
The
and stuff,
one
yeah.
in that patio behind Three Sticks.
Yeah, Three Sticks is a
spectacular.
historic adobe. Adobe, as you know, is the classic thing of getting a bunch of mud and hay and smashing it together and making a wall. So,
Perfect. I like that. I could probably do that.
It was
at
perfect
home,
for this area because it kept them cool, in the summer. It was really nice.
Joan and I once made a pact. Should anything seriously happen, we somehow got separate, whatever,
Right.
we would meet back at the Sunflower Cafe at 4 o'clock for coffee. That
Really?
was our
That's the
rescue,
plan?
That was our rescue plan.
Really?
Seriously.
All right.
Meet back there in Sonoma. Well, we figured Sonoma's probably going to be one of the last places affected by anything that's
So you're saying if the
nasty.
zombie apocalypse breaks out,
Sure,
4
whatever.
o'clock at the Sunflower Cafe, bring your machete. 'Cause
Whatever.
you had to fight your way through the hordes.
I don't see zombie Sonoma as
They
really
wouldn't come here.
attractive to
They
the
wouldn't come here.
tourists.
We're already
in
Sonoma.
Europe,
They won't. There's no reason.
Well, that's very cool. And Tim, thank you so much for being on the show. It's
Of
really appreciated. We did a lot more, a lot deeper than just wine events or what's coming up, etc. But the one thing I do want to talk about is your reach on social media and how do people get in touch with you and what are you doing on that?
Well, of course, the easiest way to find us, SonomaValley.com, our main website. All the information's there. We're also on Facebook and Instagram.
So what was the one I got this morning from Sonoma County?
I think it's Sonoma County. So that's a good thing to explain. There's a town called Sonoma, a valley, Sonoma Valley, and then a county called. And I don't know, I didn't get a chance to see there, but there's also Sonoma County, which is the entire region. We were talking earlier about places like Jenner and the Russian River. And,
One of my favorite little places to go,
Guerneville,
Jenner.
Spassville. Yeah, so that's in the county. The county is quite large. It's 1 million acres. So it's a big area. To drive from Sonoma all the way up to, say, Gualala, because we're doing a diagonal across the county.
I've
that's
never
like
been up
2.5
that
hours.
far.
Yeah, it's the end of the world. There's dragons out there.
This was the post this morning.
Oh, yeah, so that's from Sonoma County.
Insider tip.
Oh, look at that. Insider tip.
Fall may be the best time to visit Sonoma County.
Well, you know what? I don't want to...
Whose tagline? Life opens
That's the
up.
county of Sonoma. It's Sonoma County.
And what's Sonoma's?
We do experience Sonoma Valley. So similar thing.
I still have my license plate holder that says "Our roots run deep."
Yeah.
Or it's the roots run deep. Sonoma
Valley
wine.
wine,
Yeah. The.
We have a
Every
license
time I
plate.
see it, it should be our roots run deep.
We have
the copyright
license plate holders in our visitor center if
that
you
are
like it.
free.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
we sell them, but I've got so many of them. People walk in, I'm like, go ahead.
That I didn't know.
It's
I think
like
I
free
just
marketing
I
when you
just,
think about
I,
it.
I just thought I took it. So.
Just real quick, we're also on TikTok. We're on all the socials, and you can sign up for emails, get our special
And
offers
you do
and deals.
those? You have people over there?
Do I have
experts?
people? No, I mean, yeah, we have people that we work with. Everyone here is in town. We have locals that are writing everything. We have blogs. We're doing right now on holidays. So people listening to this, this is October now, but November, December is our holidays.
This will be out this week.
Okay. Yeah. And then we are rolling out our Winter Wellness, 100 days of Sonoma Winter Wellness, starting January 1st. And
Winter wellness.
Winter wellness.
Taking care of yourself over the...
Yeah, I think it's important. People, we were talking earlier, Thanksgiving and holidays, it's actually a stressful time. And what's nice about Q1, if to be businessy, but January, February, March, and a bit of April, is it's time to focus on yourself and relax and get out and hike and, really concentrate on your mental health and like your physical health. So we're going to be promoting that for January, February, March.
Man, I'm really happy to hear people talking about mental health because, it's such a stigma, But in the 50s, it was somebody in a rubber room or a straitjacket or a sanitarium or something like that.
Or just take this pill and you're fine, and then don't talk about it.
And then it worked into that. Of course, there's Mother's Little Helper and
what a drag it is getting old.
Yeah, talk to me about that. I'm the old man on the podcast, so it's 72.
You are the wise sage.
But, I'm glad people are talking about it because it's so important and nobody ever covers it.
No, I think we're doing it more and more. Definitely younger generations have gotten rid of the stigma of it. I think going through COVID where people realized that was a very hard time for a lot of people. For us, from a travel perspective, you can say, well, travel could be a part of mental
What
health.
happened to tourism during those 3 years? How bad was it?
It was not
actually?
good. It was not good.
Yeah.
It was very bad. Those were bad times. I should say I've been lucky enough to survive, or been unfortunate enough to go through everything from earthquakes, fires, smoke, fires, COVID.
Well, you remember the
downturns.
SWOT analysis that
Yes.
people used to do?
Yes, there's
Whoever really thought
a lot
that
of T's.
a threat would be worldwide pandemic?
Well, actually, no. It's funny you mentioned
Nuclear war.
No, 'cause
Holy
SARS.
shit.
I mean, if you're to go deep into travel, when you looked at SARS, you remember that one?
Yeah.
That was an early scare for travel and what that means, and all the different swine flus and stuff like that. Those really do affect travel deeply. And wine you can buy at the store and ship it, but travel, people have to come here and consume the product. I have to convince people to come here. Please come here. So
How many people come here a year?
all of them. I hate that question because I never.
I'm sorry.
Because people, I'll give you an answer. I don't like giving you
Lots.
made up answers.
Lots.
And I'm gonna be very clear. Anyone telling you that they know exactly how many people come to an area as big as ours is lying. They do not know, have a definite. We can sample, we can guess. They're all wags.
What's
They're
your guess?
all wild ass guesses. Supposedly over 9 million people come to the county every year. For the valley, which is very hard to quantify because people go to the valley, they go to other places. It's 5 million? What do you want to
Okay.
say? 6 million?
Yeah, whatever.
What number do you want?
I don't care.
The whole
It's all
joke.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Well, it's interesting. You're right. You have literally no way of telling.
no.
They don't have to register when they
right.
come
I mean,
into town.
so we can look at, you can kind of extrapolate based upon hotel occupancy data, and then what percentage we think of total travelers are staying in hotels. Or you could also look at traffic data.
Yeah, and now VRBOs kind of thing.
There is a rather more opaque method because some people have vacation rentals that are off the books, so we don't really know. So, yeah, you can do some modeling and try to figure it out.
We always stayed at Sonoma Mission Inn.
Good.
Way back. I mean, you're talking 87 was the first
Fantastic
time.
spot.
Yeah.
Geothermal Springs.
We loved
It's
it.
been there for a long
Yeah.
time.
Every
It's
Sunday morning,
lovely
I'd
spot.
wake up early, go down, get coffee in the New York Times.
Would you bring it to your wife? Because you
Absolutely.
said you're going to bring her coffee.
Yeah.
You didn't say you're going to make the coffee. I love that.
That-
You're like, I ran to the Fairmont and bought coffee. Look how romantic I am. I ordered room service. Aren't I amazing?
I have been more. Joan is not a normal listener to the podcast, but I have been working the last couple of weeks on some anniversary presents
Okay.
that I can make because I'm a photographer.
Okay.
And I can print at home and do all this.
Okay.
I have taken. I've made 4 big posters.
Wait.
One-
Did you make boudoir photos of yourself? Do not give this
no,
to your wife.
no,
I would
no,
like
no,
to quickly
no,
interject.
no.
Okay. Let me
I
let me help your marriage.
I am
out.
not Anthony Weiner of New York City. Okay. But the point is, I took all these photos of us when we got married out here,
gotcha.
when we first met, what we've done, where we've traveled. One of just all the dogs
That's
we've
great.
had. One of specifically Europe. One of, and it's just been really fun to look back on these tens and tens of thousands of photos that I have
Right.
and that I've scanned over the years and collected. And actually, you can't see them when they're on your computer or on your phone.
squinting on your phone,
Yeah.
right.
And so I always print things. I print things for friends. They go on vacation. They post things. I steal them. When they come back, I hand them
That's
a
nice of you.
photo. Yeah, I love it. It's
You're like
a-
those early guys that would take photos of the roller coaster people, and they come out and you get printed out for them.
Yeah, but they charge me for that. A really good friend, Jeremy Zimmerman, chef at Girl in the Fig,
Oh, yeah.
which is our favorite restaurant.
Great
Cer-
restaurant.
Certainly mine.
Right.
And he just had a baby girl.
Oh.
And so I
Got some
printed
photos?
these beautiful shots for him.
Oh, great.
And,
Okay.
now they're hanging up. Brian, when I was in London and we were over at Abbey Road, his daughter's name is Abby.
Oh.
So that's hanging in her bedroom,
Oh, that's
Abbey
nice.
Road. Yeah, it's really fun to do. Jasmine, who works here, Jasmine Egan at the Tasting House 16600, when she was over in France, she came back and here are these great shots.
That's nice of you.
Michael Coates' daughter, Allison.
Oh, yeah, Allie.
Yeah, she was just in Paris. Some beautiful
Oh, right,
photography,
that's right,
but
right.
now it's
printed
it's a
out for her.
poster and hanging above his desk in his office.
Oh, good for you. That's
Michael's
nice.
such a great guy.
Yeah.
Also another KSVY guy.
He is. Guys at 5, I think,
Yeah.
on Wednesdays.
Yeah,
And
they are characters.
Yes.
Gotta love
he also
those
has crazy
guys.
clients. He has like the Salmon Association,
Yeah.
wineries, the
Well,
Cannabis
they do,
people.
they do a bunch of different wineries. I know they do Ledson. I know they do
Sonoma
La
Valley Visitors
Prenda. They
Bureau.
do couple others. DeRosa Art Museum, which is a great place to visit.
Yeah.
Art in the valley is really
it's a big
excellent.
draw. I mean,
it's not touristy. It's not.
No,
it's handmade stuff.
It is. It's artisan is a word that gets thrown around a lot. But like you go to Sonoma Community Center, and there's a ceramics program that you can sign up for.
And make your own.
Make your own ceramics or see the experts. And there's also the fiber arts, and you can learn how to do that sort of stuff. So you have the chance to do art here. Art Escape in Sonoma Springs. They do stuff for teens.
Yeah, I've got a friend who runs Janine Smith, who does sip and paint.
Oh, yeah, that's big stuff.
Mainly at the Fairmont.
Yeah, so those are kind of funny because, I don't paint, but I saw one of those. I'm like, that'd be kind of fun if someone showed me how to do it. And I think it's part of that creative process that, going back to the mental health and the wellness aspect, that takes you out of your day-to-day worries and opens up a different part of your brain, and it helps you relax a little bit. So doing something, even if you're not good at it, and you don't have to be good at it, have fun.
Yeah.
And you have that opportunity to do those kind of stuff.
And music in this area.
So why do we have so many good bands? We're not a big town.
I think it was the old San Francisco influence.
Yeah.
Most of those guys. I mean, I just had Barry Melton on the show last week on Pirate Radio, who was the guitarist for Country Joe and the Fish.
Oh, okay.
Who worldwide tours.
Right.
When they said they got the nicknames Country Joe.
Yeah.
They were recording their first album in Berkeley.
Okay.
These long-haired hippies, right?
Okay, right.
And somebody said, man, they're going to think you are a bunch of commies. So they said, well, screw it. Let's do it right. Country Joe nickname came from Country Joe Stalin. Oh. And the Fish, Barry the Fish Melton, Country Joe and the Fish was the name.
Right.
He got that from Mao's Little Red Book. The revolution passes through the peasantry as a fish swimming in a stream.
Oh, my God.
That's where he took the Fish as the name. And the first time they were played was on Radio Moscow.
For real.
For real. And it's hysterical what you learn. But, like David Aguilar, playing with Big Brother and the Holding Company.
Right.
They're gigging at different bars and centers every weekend.
Very random, high level of talent.
Yeah.
For being a very small town in a small
Roy
valley.
Blumenfeld was and still is the original drummer for the Blues Project with Al Cooper, Steve Katz, a couple other folks out of the East Village in New York City in the early 60s, and they two of them just played with Barry Melton and David at Murphy's.
Well, Murphy's a small.
Saturday.
So we have a bunch of. Here's the deal. People think of Austin or Nashville or these different music places. Or I think of big cities, Chicago for the blues or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But we have a bunch of small venues and really good homegrown, but also people from other places that have retired here.
John Williams.
John
Carskadden,
we have
Cliff
We have that crazy live band karaoke thing, right? Like we have all these fun, the AC/DC tribute band.
Oh yeah.
We have all these different bands that play at different venues, and some are quite small. Murphy's is not big; it's a small little nook. It's like tiny little, or the Snug, whatever they call it, in an alleyway next to like the Nepalese place and the juice bar next to the bakery. But they have Sebastiani Theater. Or then you have, we just had the Valley of the Moon Music Festival.
Hey, we've got a music fest coming up November 26th called Swinging Out West with
Tommy
Thompson.
I hear it's a big one.
Yeah, it's going to be a
and
great.
And Sebastiani?
Sebastiani, Tommy Thompson,
and
David
and
Roy are playing.
Art Deco theater sitting there.
It's stunning. I love it.
And people playing wineries. They play Gunbun.
When we sold the Uptown Theater on sponsorship for KSVY radio station, there... In a year, their ticket sales for Sonoma went up 80%.
So it works.
And the Uptown is spectacular.
Not far away from here.
I went to Sam's event with Tony Saunders and Catherine Russell, then headed over to Napa and caught Dave Mason that night at the Uptown.
You're doing 2 shows a day.
It's great. I like
well,
that.
I should say, speaking of, if I can give a quick plug here.
Please.
Saturday, November 18th is the lighting of the plaza.
Excellent.
And we have, of course, Transcendence Theater Company will be performing, but we've also got John Arnts with the karaoke, live band
Excellent.
karaoke. He'll be bringing a bunch of different
John
performers and different groups.
Great guy.
And what I love is he just has like random guitarists and trombonists and whoever knows will show up. I don't know. And then some other local acts will be performing. So that is a huge community event. It's when we light the palm tree. It starts at sundown. At the south part of City Hall. So if you get confused about all the different 4 sides, don't worry, just look for the stage. But that's a big event, and then it kicks off our holiday
So the
season.
south side would actually be the...
Broadway.
Okay.
Yeah, when you're coming up from Broadway,
Yeah.
it's from the south. So
Right.
it's I mean, the horseshoe, as we
the
call it.
front entrance,
Where the front
basically.
entrance, and where everyone...
Where the flags are.
Where the flags are, and the farmer's market on Tuesdays. So, yeah.
I love that farmer's market.
That is is it a farmer's market or is it a party that happens to have some vegetables?
Well...
And corn dogs.
It started as a farmer's market.
It did. It still
But
is.
when I was here, wow, I got one of my best photos there. Just of red peppers.
Yeah.
That was it.
No,
But
it's-
every housewife in Chicago wanted one in the
It's,
upper north side.
it's probably one of the
Rich
best
ladies.
farmers markets, I think, in California, definitely as far as like for the scene. You know, for everyone showing up and dancing and music.
And our plaza is the largest one in all of California.
It's an 8-acre. I mean, it's the
8
largest of its
acres, yeah.
kind. There's
Yeah.
other like like LA has some big plazas, but they're like these government plazas.
Mm-hmm.
They're not real plazas. Ours is an actual historic,
Yeah.
walkable, a place you want to hang out plaza.
My life has changed so much from advertising industry in Chicago and New York City, and then moving out here.
Well, it's
All I wanted to do in Iowa when I was 16, 17, run away to California.
Really?
It only took me another 50 years to get here, all right?
well, we're glad you're here.
Me
glad
too,
you made
man.
it.
We love it, and Joan made the comment the other night that she has never had this many friends.
Oh, that's
and
good.
that's great.
Yeah, I think that's the perfectly encapsulates Sonoma is that it's a community of friends and people that are just interesting and fun to be around.
And she loves working with sister cities.
Oh, good.
She is Hungarian.
Oh, good.
So
Okay,
she
such a guy.
loves that. So, all right. Any shout outs today?
Well,
that you want to say?
I just want to
while we're
remind
tying
people,
up?
if you're listening to this podcast, please subscribe to it and make sure that you give this podcast a good review because that helps you get found.
Thank you very much.
And after you've done that, if you want to find the Sonoma Spiel, SPIEL, that is our podcast, and we love to talk about Sonoma Valley.
I love those Yiddish words.
I know, huh?
Spiel,
Spiel.
schmuck,
Yeah, what's your
schmendrick.
schmata?
I'm
You're
schlepping.
schlepping this thing.
Yeah.
Yiddish is such a good.
Schmagegi.
Yeah, it's such a good.
Schmazel.
I think anyone that grew up with Warner Brother cartoons, I don't know if we all like Yiddish, is because all those guys are in New York.
Well, it's Mel Brooks.
right, and Mel
Carl
Brooks stuff.
Reiner.
You're exactly
That's
right.
it. Yeah.
And it came out of that whole vaudeville thing. But yeah, no. So listen to that podcast and please come visit. If you go to SonomaValley.com, they can order our visitor guide. I will mail you. I will have a government employee bring it to your door.
Really?
Directly
At
to
the
your
hotel?
door. Wherever I will have an official U.S. Postal Service person bring you a
There you
visitor
go.
guide if
Perfect.
you order it from our SonomaValley.com.
Hey, the post office is still a thing in Sonoma.
Oh yeah, we
I've
know
got
a mail
one-
person.
yeah.
She walks in every day. We say hi to her all the time.
And you know him.
Of course.
Remember when Butch passed away?
Yeah, that was a big
He would walk past every time I was on my show because of the old studio.
Oh, you
We
could see him.
faced
Right.
Napa
Right.
and had that open window. Yeah, I'd always see him. So
That's what we're all about. Small town.
It's very cool. Hey, Tim, thank you very much. Tim Zahner from the Sonoma Valley Visitors Bureau.
Thanks for having me.
Perfect. Thanks so very much. Hey, everybody, thanks for listening, and we will be back next week with our 300th show. Think about the questions you want to ask. We're going to be emailing all of our fans that we have the emails for, getting questions, and we will be calling some folks. So thanks a lot. Talk to you next week, everybody. Take care.